Hi there, I'm Sai, and I guess this is my YouTube channel. Yay! So I think I've kind of always wanted one of these. I guess everyone has, and sometimes you gotta just start and... Wow, this lighting is really shit. Hold on, is this gonna like... This is worse. We'll call it good. We will call this beautiful. A rose by any other name would smell as sweet. And video quality, this dog shit, will continue to be bad. Even if I call it beautiful. And I'm a very serious and put together person, and I'm going to start talking now. So, what am I doing here? Not trying to become famous, because there's too many famous people, and somehow not enough famous people for everyone to be a famous person. So that's not the goal. The goal is I have some reading goals that I want to meet. And I think the collective force of the internet watching me while I chip away at those is going to be helpful. Namely, the reading goals that I want to complete is the James Mustick 1000 books to read before you die list. I'm just gonna like put my hands like this, because if I had the book I would hold it up right now, but I don't actually own the book. So I'm gonna edit in like a PNG of it. I'll get the book at some point. I feel like I should probably get the book before I commit to reading all 1000 books. So I have a plan for how I'm gonna do this. I'm going to read them in 5 book packets. The reason why I'm not just gonna read them one by one is I want to do these alphabetically, because I think if I skip around, I'm going to end up with a bunch of, like, I don't want to call them dregs at the end, because, like, all books have a degree of literary merit, but I'm going to end up at the end with a bunch of things that I don't want to read, and I am 100% going to skip things forever and forget about them if I do it like that. Plus, part of this is just me opening my horizons as a reader, and I think forcing myself to read some random stuff is going to help that. So, the 5 book packets are good, because it gives me like a little bit more wiggle room, which is nice, because sometimes I just can't finish a book, guys. It's bad. Oh my god, I've returned so much. I think I have like a 50% hit rate on checking things out from the library and reading them, which is not good. We'll see how that fares in this circumstance, but we'll see. So that flexibility is going to be nice. And the other thing is that I probably need a little bit of administrative flexibility with regards to sometimes books are hard to get, you know, and I'm probably going to be relying mostly off of the library and secondhand stores for this. I don't have 1,000 book money. That's like, what, $20,000 if you're buying all new? I'm like, sure, it's probably going to be over like 10 years if I even finish, and I will finish. I'm going to say that right now, and I might delete this video later. And now that AI is a thing, I can claim later, if anyone has access to this video still, that was AI. I'm committing to this right now, knowing that by the time I need to pony up on this commitment, it will be really easy not to pony up. So, anyway. So rule number 1, 5 book packets. Rule number 2, I cannot peek at what's ahead on the list, because I think that's going to freak me out. I think if I see that War and Peace is up ahead, I do know that War and Peace is up ahead, but we're going to ignore that. I know a few things that are on the list, but I'm not going to peek anymore. God, I actually own... I've tried to read this about 5 separate times, but I just get bored and I give up. But no matter. So, once I start seeing things I'm excited about reading ahead on the list, I'm going to feel the impulse to read ahead, which isn't good since I like the 5-book packet strategy. And I think it's going to stress me out, and I think a lot of things are going to happen that aren't good. The one indulgence I will give myself is that I'm still going to read things that I want to read outside of the list while I'm reading for this list. And so, like, if I pick something up, I don't have to check to make sure it's not on the list first. I can, like, coincidentally read a book and then find out later, oh, it was on the list. Which does bring up an interesting point. Do I have to reread every book I've already read? I'm estimating there's about 50 books on this list I've already read. And I know that sounds like a big number, and I agree it's a big number. So that's like the height of my estimation. I don't think I've read 50. Okay? But I'm going to take that one on a case-by-case basis, based on how recently I read it, how much I remember it, and quite honestly, how much I really want to reread it. What? Did someone say something? Yeah, so I don't know if Les Mis is on that list, but if it is, I'm not doing that again. I'm not doing that again. I am categorically not reading Les Mis again. And I'm going to say there's no amount of money in the world, but that is a lie. If someone paid me $100,000, I would read Les Mis again. But they're not going to, because why would they? Who has the expendable income to pay $100,000 for someone else to read a book? I'm not doing it again. I'm not doing it again. What? Okay. Moving on. So those are the ground rules I'm setting up for myself now. I can add rules and presumably change rules later. I'm going to try to upload one video for each 5-book packet. If I end up coming across a book that's like an absolute monster and takes me like a month on its own, like War and Peace, then I might end up doing a full video just for that. But rule of thumb, I'm going to try to do one video per packet. That just seems easy. And throughout my videos on each packet, I reserve the right to mention books that aren't on the list that I really, really liked that I read at the same time. Like, I'm going to say this right now. Stoner by... Hold on, wait. I got to remove my university's label from this book real quick, because it occurs to me that, like, probably no one's gonna watch this video, but I also don't need to, like, super directly dox myself on the first video I ever posted to the internet. So, this is Stoner by John Williams. I'm really liking it. I reserve the right to bring this up later and be like, hey, Stoner by John Williams. I'm liking it so far. We'll see. Okay, that receipt was facing the incorrect way. There's no... I'll review the footage later to make sure I didn't dox myself. What? That's the 3rd time I've made that joke, and it's gotten less comprehensible every time I've made it. This is gonna be a long video, I think. Yeah, so just warning you guys, I am reading that. Also, when I went to the library to try to pick up one of the books for this packet, I did come across this. And I know this is completely nondescript, so you can't tell what it is, but I can't actually show you the spine that has the name on it because it's covered in tons of identifiable info about my university. So I'm just going to tell you, right, actually, wait. Best American Gay Fiction. I need to kick the habit of walking to the stacks and immediately seeing something and picking it up and being like, wow, this looks interesting. God, it does look interesting though. Every word gets a little bit more interesting up to like a certain point, right? Because like best already starting off really strong. Some would argue that's the best place to start off. I don't think so. American, I'm not saying that, like, American literature is better than, like, all literature, guys. It's just that, like, I'm really enamored with the whole, like, American creation myth and the concept of the failure of the American dream. I just think it's really potent literarily. I'm not saying that, like, American literature is the height of literature or anything. I just feel like this is gonna get into, like, the gay experience from, like, an American perspective, and that's really, really exciting to me. And then you peak with the word gay. Sorry, am I, like, outing myself on the first video I'm ever releasing to YouTube? No, I'm sorry, Simon. You were outing yourself with, like, the first thing you did. Yeah. And then after that, it goes a little bit downhill. It's like the next word's fiction. It's like, yeah, I like fiction better than nonfiction, but it's not really a selling point. And then you really reach the depths of obscurity with the final word, which is number 3. I didn't realize it was the third one when I checked it out, but apparently it's the third one in the sense that they released one every year. It's not like they front-loaded all the good stories into volume 1, and then this is the third one, so it's not going to have such great stories in it, but still not really adding much. What I'm really excited about for this video is about something completely different. What? Oh my god, I did it again. Sorry, I'm not a mess. I'm not crazy. I'm sane. Right. I'm very excited for the second story in this collection of stories, because the second one is called Please Do Not Touch the Works of Art, and it's by Tom House, and I just... Please... It's in a book called Best American Gay Fiction, and it's called Please Do Not Touch the Works of Art. Yeah, so if nothing else, I will probably be reporting back on that one, even if only to say that it was really underwhelming. Because I feel like I'm building your hype for this right now. Oh my god, I'm such a title guy. It's a total problem, because I just get taken in by a title, and then I check something out implicitly. Like, this time, it was like, yeah, of course you'd check out Best American Gay Fiction. But a few months ago, I just happened to see Great American Short Stories by Henry James. And I looked at that for 3 seconds and checked it out immediately. I don't even know who Henry James is. And, like, it's exactly who you're expecting. It's like old white man that a bunch of other old white men are like, every American agrees that he's one of the greatest American novelists, which is so crazy to me when I didn't even know who he was. Like, here's what I'll say. It's hard enough to get me to read a collection of Melville, right? I love Melville. It's so hard to get me to read his stuff. You think I'm reading a collection of Henry James? Look, I like short novels, right? But if the short novel's from before, like, 1890, it's gotta be good. And I don't know how much I count on Henry James in this. I genuinely think I picked it up from the library because I saw the word great in the title. Which is really embarrassing. I really saw that and I was like, but they're great short novels. Oh my god. So anyway, I'm a little bit stupid. That's why I need a list to tell me what to read, because I'm too dumb to figure it out on my own. And I did return that to the library, by the way. It's not weighing on my conscience anymore. So anyway, I've yammered on for long enough. I think it's time for me to introduce the 5 books that are in the first packet. And I have to warn you, I only have one of them on hand. So the first one, we're gonna pretend that I was prepared. The first one is called Desert Solitaire. It's by Edward Abbey, and it's apparently a collection of memoirs about living in the backcountry somewhere. Not quite sure yet, but it's James Mustick's role to tell me what the book is about, and it's my role to like the book, okay? So I was picking that one up from the library when I got taken in by the American gay fiction, and I swear to God, it was not where it was supposed to be, in the library. I'm going to find the librarian, and I'm not going to do anything because I am a coward, and also the librarian pretty likely made a pretty reasonable mistake. There's so many books to look after. The whole system's really annoying. Actually, I'm not going to find the librarian. I've just put a hold on it, which is a little bit distressing to me because I could have just had it right there and then, and I'm now going to have to wait a few days, but we'll see. The second book is Flatland, and I'm actually really excited about this one because it's kind of old. I'm immediately forgetting how old it is, but wait, I do need to, Flatland, yes, there we go. Flatland by Edwin A. Abbott. It's pretty old, and apparently it's about, a dystopian two-dimensional world, and the main character's a square. And I'm really excited about that, because that's quirky, and I love it when old books are kind of quirky. Because that's, a level of quirky that I don't necessarily know how often you really see. The third book, and this is really interesting because I didn't expect to get one so early into my proof of concept, but is Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. And I've already read it, and I loved it. Oh my gosh, I loved it so much. I did read it 7 months ago, which I do feel like is enough time that I don't really have to read it again. I will talk about it, and I will check out a copy to, passingly consider reading. It's short. It is short. We'll see. Maybe I'll read it. But I'll definitely talk about it, and I definitely can recommend it. But yeah, we'll see. The fourth book is My Dog Tulip, and apparently it's just a pretty classic, My Dog Tulip, and apparently it's a pretty classic, dog book, if you know the genre. It's not really my genre, but we'll see. I'm pretty optimistic, because so far the list seems really interesting, and I don't think James Mustick would steer me wrong, and I'm even more sure that James Mustick would not steer me wrong because of the next book on the list, the only one I actually own. That didn't happen. What do you mean? That didn't happen. The only book I actually own, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I'm sorry to be basic. I'm sorry to be such a basic sci-fi dude, but look, man, I've read everything Douglas Adams ever wrote, right? Dirk Gently, Salmon of Doubt, they get me where I live, and The Hitchhiker, I'm probably not gonna reread it. What? Sorry, it's my second favorite book, okay? It's my second favorite book, but I've already read it so many times, and I have so many other things to read. I'll strongly consider rereading it, but Things Fall Apart is probably a better book anyway, and I'm not gonna reread that one, so sorry, Douglas Adams. Okay, side tangent for a second. Douglas Adams is, when people ask you, who would you go to dinner with, living or dead? It's Douglas Adams. He's just, the only author that I really, really love, who I genuinely believe is a good person in real life. Here's what I'll say. This is The Salmon of Doubt. I highly recommend reading it. It's genuinely kind of life-changing. It's just a series of essays that were published posthumously, a collection of all of his best works, decided on by all his friends and family. And just the good nature that he has throughout them. It's, you can believe in this man as being good in a way that I don't necessarily get for every author. I love Arthur Miller's works, but if you ever read an essay he's written, you can tell that he would have hated you. Oh my God. So much hatred. Douglas Adams, so much love. So, Anyway, God, I feel like the fact that I've already read 2 out of the 5 books in the first packet is really going to throw off any potential viewer's perception of how many of these books I've read. But I'm telling you, I think it's just a coincidence. I really don't think I've read more than 50 of them, right? Like, I think I've read 1 in every 20 books. I just think it was coincidentally front-loaded with 2 I've already read. You know? But yeah, I think it's very exciting that the first packet is already a little under halfway done, just from the jump. Because, you know, I think that's going to help this proof of concept sail a little bit better. And, wow, 20 minutes just for an introduction. I don't know if that's a lot or too little, but it's something. Anyway, I will presumably shoot another video by the time I read the first one of these books, which I'm going to guess is going to be Flatland. Because I do have holds on everything physically, but Flatland is the only one I could find online. So, wait, I could actually just film something real quick about Hitchhikers and things. I'll be back. And this will be 0 time for you because of the magic of editing, but I'll be back with something soon. Hey guys! Okay, so it's been 2 days since my first video, essentially exactly because it was night then and it's night now, and quite a few things have happened. First of all, I finished Stoner. Probably not going to talk about it that much. I have things to say. I'll say them in a few minutes. I'm not dedicating a whole section of video to it. I'll explain it. And library got me 2 of my holds. What are they? I know, it's impossible to tell when they're just sad, beige books. But the answer is Desert Solitaire and My Dog Tulip, which is nice because I already had the copy of Flatland digitally, which means that I now officially have all of the books I haven't read, which is great. High-key, I think in the future I'm going to start doing something a little bit different with the library so I don't get these sad beige books, because I think that this is going to make me sad moving forward. In the library, when you're getting a loan, you can check off a little box that says, don't give me a different edition. So if I find the edition in the library catalog that has the cute cover, because both these books have really cute covers, these just aren't them. If I can check off the box that says, only give me this edition, then they'll search, like, the wide universe for one with a different cover. Like, this book right here, completely unrelated to any of this, but this book was, in fact, a loaner from, like, several states away. So they'll put in the work, and it's completely free. I just need to decide if I believe it's worth the library's resources and time for them to put all this extra effort for what they're assuming is, like, I'm doing fine scholarship on the differences between 2 different print editions of these books, when really I just want the prettier cover for my little YouTube videos. So we'll see if the ethical ramifications catch up to me or not. But anyway, so this is great. I officially have essentially all of my books. Physically missing 2 of them, but it's one I've already read, and it's Flatland, which, in fact, I actually did read. I finished it this morning. It was great. I'm going to talk about it in a minute. But first, I did promise I was going to give you some comments on Stoner. Incredible book. Really good. I hated so much of it. Oh my god. It's, like, truly beautiful, and I related to the protagonist Stoner more than I've related to anyone else at distinct points of the book. But I also was left with the feeling throughout the book that it was kind of ideologically mean-spirited. Like, this isn't really okay, this might be a little bit of a spoiler. You can skip 30 seconds if you're really scared of spoilers. But, like, there's one major female character and there's two major female characters and two major disabled characters. One of the disabled characters is, like, incompetent. The other one is, like, evil. And then, of the women, one of them's completely flat. And one of them is the most evil person you've ever seen. And it continuously feels like both of these, these characterizations were a result of deep-seated feelings on the part of the author. When, fundamentally, the characters that are being treated in this way by the narrative are clearly the victims of larger societal ills that he's not accounting for in any way. It's just completely unfair, mean-spirited treatment. I did love it. I really, really liked the book. But there were moments that was upsetting. What I'll say is this. I checked it out the morning I made that video. I read 50 pages in the morning. That evening, I went to read a chapter or two before bed. I ended up reading through the whole thing. Whether that's a comment on the quality of the book or on the fact that I have raging insomnia that's been acting up a lot lately, unclear. But, you know, your mom would like it. Tell your mom to read this book. You can read it or not, but it was really pretty, and I think I liked it. Okay, that's Stoner. Not going to go into any further detail. Which brings us to Flatland. Oh my god. I loved Flatland. I wish I could hold it up right now. Hold on. Trying to think of what the most Flatland adjacent book I own is. Pretend this is Flatland, because I want to wave something emphatically. And, also, ignore that there's just a single post-it. That's sad. Okay, anyway, Flatland. Like I said, it's about a square. He doesn't have a name, he just is a square. He lives in a perfectly flat land. Everything's two-dimensional. And how your moral value is determined by how many sides you have. Unless you're a triangle. In which case, your moral value is determined by your angle. So, like, the lowest possible citizen is, like, a super-duper acute angle. Like this acute kind of triangle right here. Worst thing you can possibly be. The more equilateral you get as a triangle, the better. You can't change your own angle, but every generation, as long as you're building upon your own moral character, your children might have a slightly better angle. And once you hit a perfect 60, after that, every generation gets another side. With some exception. So our main character, the square, he's in a pretty prestigious place in society. Because most people are triangles, and most people are really terrible triangles too. They're like some of these type triangles, you know. So the square, he's the first generation to be born into the upper classes, and he's in fact a pretty aged figure. He has grandchildren of his own, which, if you can do the math, they're hexagons. By the way, like, all of the highest nobility have so many sides they're basically circles. And everyone calls them circles, even though it's understood that they're not really circles. And there's a whole bunch of rules set up. It's super complicated, and you can start to see how this might be a parody of society. Ooh, shoot. I shouldn't have chosen Dylan Thomas. I don't know why I chose Dylan Thomas. I should have chosen... yes! Ooh, I'm Jean-Paul Sartre. Society is terrible, and the only way to restrain yourself from the ills of the higher nature of humanity is by exodus. Shut the fuck up, Jean-Paul Sartre. I don't even like you. What? Anyway, So it's all very much a big parody of Victorian society, which gets me going, because you have this, like, stupid little hierarchy system, and everyone's always, like, talking about the moral inferiority of the triangles. Interestingly, they never really critique that. Like, the square himself he only voices the viewpoint that the triangles really are stupid and low-bred. Which is interesting, because he does end up, by the end of the book, he ends up deconstructing his beliefs about everything else he's held to be true about about Flatland. Have I been calling it Shapeland? That's not even the title of the book. Why am I dumb? Flatland, Flatland, Flatland. Now I'll say it correctly forever. He confronts all of his beliefs about the hierarchy of Flatland and, like, finds them to be wrong. But he never really addresses whether or not the triangles truly are, like, ill-bred and stupid. Which, okay, whatever. Anyway, the whole first half of the book is a bunch of super complicated descriptions of the Flatland systems. And I know that sounds kind of boring, but trust me, it's exhilarating. Also, other big thing I should note, the women are lines, which is incredible for a lot of reasons. First of all, lines are infinitely sharp, which means that women are so dangerous. Everyone is constantly terrified that there's gonna be, like, a woman that's gonna, like, come and kill them. Because the thing with women is that, like, since it's a line, if the woman turns herself like that, she's invisible. You can't see her. And she might just run at you really fast. And then you're dead. Of course, most women would not do that because women are weak-hearted and tender. By the way, there's, like, a whole feminist commentary baked into this too, in the way that he describes women. And later, a lot of critics were like, your book's misogynistic. And he was like, you failed to see the inherent criticism of the patriarchal systems. Loser. Which, anyway, so the women... Oh my god, there's so many stupid rules with the women, but the women are required to constantly be making noise. It's called a peace cry. Women must always be talking at all times, and whenever a woman is walking through society, this isn't a rule. It's very explicitly stated that this isn't a rule. Like, it's a rule in some terrible, unruly places that don't have society, but in this society, it's just an understood thing that all women follow because these women are good. And better than, like, low-bred women from other places. Women must always be swishing around such that there's always a visible part of their line. Also, other big thing to note. Since they're all flat on a page, let's imagine this is the plane of Flatland. They only see a line. So they only ever see a line at any given time, and any one that they see, they can only see a line with regards to anyone that they see, which means that for them to determine whether or not a line that they see is a woman who is a line, a triangle that is not a line, or, like, any other shape, they have to use these really complicated means of determining. The first and most obvious one is to feel. It's like a thing of etiquette where lower classes, like pentagons, squares, pentagons aren't really low class, but, like, just anything that isn't a circle, you can ask to feel someone else. So you'll go up to someone and you'll be like, hey, queen, can I feel you? And then they'll hold perfectly still, and you'll go around them. But you must hold perfectly still, because your sides are sharp. It's mentioned in the book, and I love this so much. This is my favorite anecdote in the entire book, that the square's ancestor, this was a triangle, like a very good triangle, by the way, because you only get like a degree closer to equilateral every generation. So like it was like one of these triangles, like a really, really good triangle. He was being felt by an official, and while the official was feeling him, he moved a little bit. He killed that guy. That guy died. And as punishment, their angle went down. Like, the next generation, their angle was like 2 degrees less. Which is so interesting, because it implies that the government can control your angle. I thought it was like an inbuilt thing, but the government can control it? I don't know. Part of the commentary. God, I love that anecdote so much. I love this book so much. So, someone might ask to feel you, and they'll just go around and check how many sides you have. But they have a fancier way of determining what kind of thing you are. That only fancy people that go to the academy for, like, higher order shapes can do, and it's the art of sight. And so for sight, you would look at a square. I mean, you'd look at a line, and you know how you can see how this line has these dimensions based off of the lighting? You can't actually do that in Flatland, because in Flatland, everything is lit equally. And it's like kind of a big mystery in Flatland. Everyone's like, what is light? Why is it that everything's lit equally? However, there is fog. So there's just a little bit of fog over everything. And because there's a little bit of fog over everything, the corners of this thing look fainter than the part of it that's closer to you. And through that, you can discern how many edges there are based off of how quickly it fades out of view. And you have to train for so long to get really, really good at this. And it's like a whole thing. Now, at this point, you might be thinking, what about color? Doesn't color make things easy? No, colors are banned. Because somebody very, very long ago had color. Like, this guy was like, what if we had colors? And he started painting himself different colors, and he'd paint all his stuff different colors, and he painted all of his children and grandchildren different colors, and everyone was like, oh my god, that's so cool. And it started to get really fashionable, and it started like the very lowest classes caught onto the trend, like the really acute triangles, and then slowly it worked its way up until everyone except the circles was completely obsessed with color. They were like, oh my god, it's so cool. And it started to be that there were set colors for every class, so it was super easy to tell people apart. Anyway, the circles were holdouts. The circles were like, no, we don't want to do that. No. Because it would like impinge upon their power in some way, partially because they had this educational advantage over the other shapes with regards to they're the only ones that can really see what the shapes are. What? Is this commentary for something? I don't know. But anyway, so, colors. And eventually, there was an irregular circle. This is also a thing. Sometimes shapes are just irregular, and, like, if you're irregular, odds are very high that you just get killed immediately, or you get, like, thrown in prison forever, or all kinds of stuff. But this circle, he was irregular. I don't know how he was getting away with that. And he was trying to take down the system. So, this circle, he set up a bill called, like, the Big Color Bill. That might be wrong. Don't quote me on that. The Big Color Bill that would require everybody to be set colors. And he very cleverly set up the bill such that the circles would be required to be colors. Because the point is that every side on any given shape is a different color. But since circles technically don't really have sides, the front is red, the back is green. It might be the other way around. Don't quote me on this. It's not important. so that you can tell which side is the front of a circle. And women would also be the same color. They would also be red at the front and green at the back. And this was very clever, because by making it such that women could have pretensions to being circles, who are the highest of the nobility, they got the support of women for this bill. So, the bill was so close to passing until one day a very, very devious square painted himself such that he appeared to be an octagon. And, appearing to be an octagon, he courted a prominent woman of nobility. And, she married him, and they consummated it, and it was great. But then, when it was discovered that he was actually a square, the girl killed herself. It was very, very tragic, and it was a big media case, and it killed the big color bell in its tracks. And from that point onward, no one's allowed to have any colors. And this all happened, like, so long before the square was around. And all of this is just the first half of the book, where he's just describing the world. Second half of the book happens on the very evening of 1999. This book was written in, like, 1890 or so, like, I don't know why it's set in 1999. I think they just really like the millennium. So, Square is having a grand old time in his house. He's a very illustrious square. He has, like, a very big pentagonal house. All the houses have to be pentagons because otherwise the angles are too sharp and they might cut people. He's chilling with his wife, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, a circle appears. And he's like, oh my god, wait, I skipped something. So, it's the night before 1999. This square, he goes to bed, and when he wakes up, he finds himself looking at a line. And on this line, there's a bunch of smaller lines. He looks at them, and at first he's like, oh, those are women. So he's like, hello, madam, to the first woman. And the woman is like, I am no woman. I am the king of Lineland. He's come across a completely different land. It's called Lineland. And this is great. So, in Lineland, all of the women are points, and all of the men are lines. I know, really abstract. And so our square, he's standing in the 2D plane in which he lives that is Flatland, and Lineland is just abutting it as a line. So he's standing there, and he's seeing the king right here. He's like, hello. And the king is convinced that his world is all that exists, as everyone is convinced that their world is all that exists. It's a very reasonable interpretation of reality. And the square, he's like, no, this is just an infinitely small slice of a broader piece of reality that's created by stretching out the continuation of all that you know into an infinite continuance of it all. And he actually temporarily does step into the line that Lineland is. And when he's stepped into the line that Lineland is, he appears to all of the people in Lineland to be a fellow line. Remember, the people of Lineland can only see a point. They can only see a point that is along the line, because this is from their perspective, like that. In the same way that the square who resides in Flatland can only see a line, they can only see a point. So the king, he's completely confused. He's like, how is this magician appearing and disappearing? Because in Lineland, no one has ever passed anyone else. They were born in this order, and they die in this order. Presume no one ever mentions what happens when these guys die. I don't know. They can't go anywhere. I don't know. You're not really supposed to think about it too hard. You're just supposed to be there for the commentary. And he describes everything about how Lineland works. It's complicated in its own sense. And the square, he tries to tell him, hey, no, this is the world. And he's obvious, like, the line doesn't get it. How could he possibly get it? You can't understand a dimension above yourself. And eventually he wakes up. It's the evening before the second millennium. And he's chilling with his wife in his room with his pentagonal with his like pentagonal sons and his hexagonal grandsons. And then enter a circle. Appears from nowhere. Nobody has, like, he and his wife are just there together and they see this circle and they're like, we don't know how the circle got here. And his wife's a little bit like, oh my god, is this really important? And he's like, no, I'm sure it's fine. And the circle's like, I need to speak to you in private, sir. So they go into another room. And the circle's like, I am a sphere. And he's like, what is that? And he's like, I am a sphere. Because you see, in the same way that he appears to be a point, in the same sense that a square temporarily coinciding with a line is a line along that line, a sphere in the plane of a plane is a circle. See, like, if you can imagine, this circle is just the same circle that would be if this sphere were intersecting the paper. I'm sure you understand. You're very smart. But he doesn't. This man doesn't understand it at all. He's like, how? No, that doesn't make any sense. You're stupid. This is sacrilege. And then he goes and he feels him. You're not supposed to feel circles. That's against the rules, because circles are, like, so dignified that you can't touch circles. But he gets so upset and annoyed that he goes to feel the circle, and it's, like, a rounder circle than he's ever he can even conceive of. Because circles aren't supposed to be round. They just have so many sides that they appear to be. So, the sphere, he goes in and out of the plane such that he gets smaller and smaller until he disappears, and then he goes back in and he gets bigger and bigger until he reaches the largest possible point. And this guy's getting so mad. And the whole time the sphere's like, you're stupid, bro, you're dumb. And he tells him, you know, you were making fun of that line just yesterday for thinking that that was the extent of reality, but you can't even fathom a dimension outside yourself. And he's like, of course I can't fathom a dimension outside myself, you heathen. There is no dimension outside myself. So he's standing over here, and he's like, you know, I can see everything. I can see your whole world. You can only see a line, but I can see the entirety of space out here. And the square's like, screw you, man, I hate you. And he's like, I can see inside your stomach, actually, because your stomach is just, it's just a plane, so I can see it. And he's like, no. And then, guy comes up to him, he's like, no, screw this. And he just, and the square is free. And the square is in 3-dimensional space now, and he and the sphere, they go around. He can now see the totality of his small world. He's like, wow, this truly was a single slice out of a larger reality that is the existence of 3 dimensions. And they go together for a while, and the sphere shows him the wonders of 3 dimensions, and eventually he's like, wow, this is really great. when are we gonna see the fourth dimension? And the sphere is like, there is no fourth dimension, you idiot! You're so fucking stupid! Why would you think there's a fourth dimension? 3 dimensions is the max number of dimensions, you fucking idiot! Why are you dumb? So, very heated. He goes back home for the night. And he has to convince his wife, oh, I just fell into the cellar, you know? Silly baka moment, you know? I'm just a silly little guy. He's back in the plane, so, like, he's just like, yeah, I'm sorry, wife. I'm totally fine. The circle didn't even want to talk about anything. It's fine. So he goes to bed. And the next day, the sphere comes back. He frees him once again from the plane. And he's like, Pookie, I'm so sorry. I realized that I was guilty of the same fallacy you were. There is a fourth dimension. I found it yesterday. And there's also a fifth dimension. And a sixth dimension. And there's so many dimensions. And they went and they saw all the dimensions together. And it was really nice. And this part of the book isn't really described very much. Because, like us, the author understandably also can't fathom a fourth dimension. It's interesting because if you think about it, it could be out there. We don't know. Also, I realized at this point that I've definitely seen the movie based off of this book. But it's like a movie for children that's just kind of based off of the idea of this book and not really based off of the rich political satire of it all. So anyway, he goes back to Flatland. And he's looking over Flatland, and his dear friend, the Sphere, he pops down to the courtroom, and he sees that his brother is in the courtroom, because his brother's, like, a clerk. And his brother's a clerk in the courtroom as the Sphere comes in, and this courtroom contains, like, all of the... It's like a parliamentary place of lawmaking. So, like, all the refined circles are there, and the Sphere comes in, he bisects the world such that he is a circle, and he's like, hi, I'm a sphere. But they were just in the process of making talking about spheres illegal. Why would you have to make something illegal if it's not real? Consider that, liberals. I'm not a Republican. Ignore the fact that I just said that. So, he comes in, he's talking to the circles. Imagine the circles are here. It's like, I am a sphere, and you're all stupid. There's a fourth dimension, and a third dimension, and a sixth dimension, and probably a 17th dimension, but I didn't get that far, and you're dumb. And the circles are like, treason, let's kill this guy, but he just leaves the plane. He's fine. Unfortunately, for our dear friend, Mr. Square, his brother, like I said, was in the courtroom as a clerk, and he gets put in jail forever just for witnessing that. They're like, oh no, this Square might tell someone that nothing happened in that courtroom, and also that guy was wrong. That guy was wrong. So, like, it's not a big deal even if he is real, but he's not real, so, jail forever. So, the Square's brother gets sent to jail forever, and over the course of the next year, the Square just keeps mentioning, he just can't stop himself. Whenever he's just in a room with someone, he's like, what if there's a third dimension? Wouldn't that be silly? What if there was a third dimension? Which is great, because, like, the way he describes it, he's like, he just can't stop. It's like, Queen, I think you can stop. You can stop any time if you don't want to get sent to jail forever. And he does get sent to jail forever. Of course he does. He gets sent to jail forever, but it's fine because now he can be with his brother forever. And he's writing us this book. By the way, he's writing this book to us as people who reside in the third dimension. And he's like, Queens, I'm never gonna be free, but, you should take the lessons from this book and apply them. Love you. And that's it. And I loved that book so much, if you couldn't tell. Oh my god. Like, it was so rich in terms of the commentary. I feel like it was so imaginative with its premise. And also, I skipped over so many of the little anecdotes that it mentions. Absolutely do read this. It's only 90 pages, too. Like, in case you were thinking, wow, it's so impressive that this guy read 2 books in, two and a half books in 2 days. He's so impressive. This one was 90 pages, okay? It's nothing. Totally worth your time. Highly recommend. Just absolutely so rich in terms of the satire of it all, and just phenomenal reading experience. There's little diagrams throughout. It's fun. It's silly. Also, big thing I want to note, women was capitalized every time. And I know that doesn't really mean anything, but it made me laugh so much. Because whenever I saw it, I just kept thinking, like, women. It felt like it was there for emphasis, and it was just so silly. And I had a point. Oh my god, wait. I had a point. Like, the women in the Lineland. Whoa! I had a point about something. It would be really nice if I could remember what it was. But yeah. Essentially, where I'm at with this is, I'm committing to this right now. I'm not going to rank books. I'm not going to give them little 5-star ratings or whatever, because I don't think that's constructive for what I'm doing here. The point of this exercise is that I'm trying to read all of these books that have, they have value. Every book has literary value, but all of these have a very specific value that's very different. And I think that attempting to rank them or rate them wouldn't be constructive to what I'm trying to achieve here, in the sense that these books are going to inevitably be so different in what they're attempting to achieve that I just don't think that's valuable. Plus, a lot of things I'm going to read aren't necessarily going to be for me in some kind of sense. Like, I'll say this right now. I'm about halfway through Desert Solitaire. This is not something I would have ever picked up. I think I'm getting a lot of value out of it, but I think me attempting to judge this as essentially a tourist to the genre isn't really fair, you know? So, I'm going to reserve the right to have my opinions on these books. But I'm going to tell you whether or not I think it's worth your time to read. What kind of a person I think would find it worth their time to read. Why I liked it. Or why I didn't like it. But an empirical ranking just doesn't seem constructive for this particular project. So, that was Flatland. Absolute... God. I'm sorry, I just don't think I'm ever gonna get over it. It was so silly, and it was just so concisely contained in what it was doing, and just absolutely achieved what it was setting out to do. So, like I said, I'm about halfway through Desert Solitaire. I'm guessing that's going to be the next thing I'm going to come back and talk to you about. But I might get bored and just go ahead and serve you up a quick little thing on book or other book. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Or the book by Chinua Achebe about the man named Okonkwo that I'm now forgetting. Things fall apart. I'm so smart, guys. I'm just like a 10 out of 10 smarty pants. Like and subscribe. The desk is like cluttered to shit. Hey guys, I'm back. Oh my god, I am so wired right now. I have been putzing around the gosh darn city all day. I had to go on like a stupid field trip I didn't want to go on, but there were a bunch of closures with all of the public transit, so like I spent an amount of time on public transit today. I don't want to check the time I left and the time I got back to figure out how long it's been. But let's just say I read all of my Dog Tulip while I was on the freaking... It's finals season. I don't have time for this. Anyway, as soon as I got back, I have been, like, nose to the grindstone, working on papers and homework. And so this is me taking a little break. This is me also coming at you to say, remember the gay short stories? Yeah, so I'm not gonna talk about those, 'cause I read one of them, and, I believe everything has literary value. I think that the literary value of that book is not my version of literary value. It was smut. It was just... I don't know why I didn't expect that. It's from the 90s, and it's best gay short stories. It's from the 90s. If you're familiar with pulp. Anyway, I don't know. I might keep reading. Maybe. It seems a little bit interesting. Not a genre I engage with, but I think it's worth examining any kind of literature. But not my cup of tea. Also, the specific short story I read was very plotless. It was just stuff that I shouldn't talk about on YouTube. Oh no, I might get demonetized on my video no one's gonna watch. Darn it! On my video where I've probably cursed a lot. What? I'm a godly man. I would never do that. Anyway, so I've now officially finished all of the books. I think I'm going to talk to you guys about Desert Solitaire right now, because did I just flash the whole ass barcode? I can censor it in post. So Desert Solitaire, that's the one I finished first. Oh my god, guys, my insomnia has been so bad lately. So I did finish that at like 2 a.m. last night. I went to bed at 9:30. And I couldn't sleep till 2 a.m. How's that fair? Yeah, it's a really convenient time for the insomnia since I do have finals coming up. I'm very excited about that. But anyway, Desert Solitaire. Very, very good book. Did I love it so much? Maybe I did, actually. I can't tell. You know, like, there were points where it was boring and it was dragging and I didn't really want to pick it back up again. But there were also points where I was, like, wrapped and, like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. So, I'm gonna go into my unspoilery thoughts at the end. I'll add a little timestamp for that. But, I'm about to start spoiling stuff. It's a memoir. Can you really spoil a memoir? I don't know. I don't believe in spoilers, okay? I'm just gonna say that right now. I Google the endings to stuff if I feel like it's taking too long to get to the point. Sorry. I'm not gonna apologize for that. Not sincerely. I'm gonna say sorry, but whenever I say that, I clearly don't mean it because I've said it like 5 times in this video and I haven't changed my behavior. You know? I don't care. I don't care about spoilers for even a second. If it's boring, I am Googling the ending. And I'll like it better if I've Googled the ending. You know? I did not Google the ending to this because it is a memoir. And like I said, I don't really believe that memoirs can have spoilers. It's someone's life, dude. It already happened, okay? Get over it. However, despite the fact that I don't believe in spoilers, I will be allowing you, my as of yet imagined viewership the capacity to avoid being spoiled. I'm so gracious. Anyway, it's been 5 minutes since I started filming this part of the video, and I have not gotten to a point. So, Desert Solitaire. It's a memoir, by Edward Abbey about his time working at the Arches National Park. And I'm not sure how much plot I'm actually going to talk about in this plot section of the video, because when you have a disjointed memoir like this, it's hard, unless I'm supposed to, like, go down the list of every anecdote, because it's basically just, like, a certain amount of chapters worth of anecdotes. Let me see. They're not numbered. I'm gonna guess that this number is 20 anecdotes. I don't even remember all 20 of them. I'm not telling you... Yeah, no. I'll tell you what stood out to me and why I liked what I liked about it, I guess. So, the book starts with him settling into the Arches National Park. He just has a cute little trailer on, like, the side of a mountain. He builds himself a nice little veranda for himself. It's very cute. It's very whimsical, very woodsy. And the first thing you'll figure out is about this man, Edward Abbey, is that he is so strong-willed. Like, this man has absolute conviction that he is correct about his stances. And you know what? They've held up remarkably well. Edward Abbey believes in conservation. That's his whole thing, you know? Like, he works at the national park, and, he's always laughing at the dumb tourists that don't understand the value of conservation. He's really funny, too. Like, that's the big thing, is that he's able to make things very entertaining with just the way that he uses wit. Sorry, on the topic of, like, dumb tourists, he has all these, like, conversations with tourists that he writes about. And one of my favorite things, this is just so small, and it's not going to be half as funny when I say it, but a tourist asked him, "Hey, when are they going to pave the park so that people can drive their cars up the mountains?" And he said, "The day before I leave." And I don't know, I just felt like that was very illustrative of his whole shtick. So, he's just adventuring through the national parks, basically. He has all his duties, but everything he writes about is essentially what happens on, like, the off days, where he just goes and, like, messes around for a while in the woods. He almost dies a few times. Okay, big spoiler, but there's a point very close to the end of the book where he's like, there's this mountain that I've seen nearby the Arches National Park for the past several months. I've always wanted to climb it, but no one's ever climbed it before. So he goes up, he climbs the mountain, like this big, tall mountain. It's snowing in the middle of summer. And he gets to the top and he's like, how are we gonna get down? It's like a 500-foot drop. He, like, takes a look at some rocks. He, like, chucks some rocks down the mountain. And they, like, tumble down. And then he finds, like, a really big flat boulder. And he's like, I know what we're gonna do today, Ferb. And he gets on the boulder and he sleds down the mountain using his boots to, like, slow it down. But it's, like, completely precipitous. It's, like, so dangerous. He ends, like, a few feet away from, like, the really sharp rocks at the bottom. And I'm gonna be so honest with you guys. I think he made that up. I don't think that's true. Like, come on. Be so for serious, dude. You sledded down a rock into, like, a pile of really sharp rocks and you survived. That's fake as hell. I don't think that's true. Like, I believe that he survived because he wrote the book, but I just don't believe that anybody would look at this mountain that he's already climbed up, so he probably should be able to climb down, and be like, it's precipitously steep. There's a bunch of sharp rocks at the bottom. I'm gonna climb on the back of a really big rock. And also, if the rock's big enough to hold him, then the gravitational force of the rock being pulled down with him on it, he's not going to be able to resist that with the frictional forces of his boots going against the snow. And he said that, like, his boots saved him, like, feet away from the really sharp rocks. And he said that, like, the soles of his boots had completely been, like, frictioned off. How are they getting that much traction in the snow? I don't know. Maybe this is a thing. If you're, like, a big rock sledder, tell me in the comments. By the way, there wasn't a cut about 1 minute and 30 seconds ago. That didn't happen. My roommate definitely didn't walk in. And I definitely didn't immediately turn off the freaking recording because I don't want my roommate to know that I'm making book talk YouTube video. That would be crazy. If that This is what gets me doxxed, actually. Nobody cares who I am, but the moment they find out that I'm hiding this from my roommate, they're like, "Oh man, we need to find this man's roommate and tell him about the Bookstagram." Bookstagram? No, that's not a thing. This isn't even going on Instagram. Anyway, fuck. Yeah, so that was great. That was fake as hell. I do not believe that for even a second. I don't think that happened. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm really disappointed in him for including that in, like, the second to last chapter of the book, because now I don't believe anything else that he said happened. I was like, wow, it's so crazy that this man has had all these experiences out in the wild, because so many of them seemed like they seemed so whimsical and like something out of a book, and I was like, I guess these things do happen in real life. I didn't think it was possible. But now I'm like, oh my god, you guys are gonna think I'm so stupid for thinking this was real. But there was a chapter about this horse that had run away from his owner, and now he'd been wandering Arches National Park for, like, decades. And one day, Edward Abbey, he's walking with someone who'd been working with the Arches National Park for much longer, and he sees the tracks of this horse, and he asks the other guy about it, and he explains his name's, like, Moon Eye, because he has this illness that horses can get that makes, like, one of their eyes go all blind and white, and basically, it made him super erratic and angry, and one day he just, like, bucked off his rider and, like, ran away into the hills, and no one's ever managed to capture him again. Like, sometimes little boys will go out and try to capture him. And the guy was like, I've never seen Moon Eye in the 10 years I've been working here, but what is the lifespan on horses? I'm gonna have to go back and see if this is actually, like, a plausible story just based off of lifespan. But he's like, for the past 10 years I've been working here since Moon Eye went up into those hills. I haven't seen Moon Eye once. And Edward Abbey, he's like, I'm gonna find Moon Eye. I'm gonna do it, guys. So he's, like, out there looking for Moon Eye. And he's like, okay, so he has such a freaking Disney princess moment, where he's like, okay, so everyone else has always tried to capture Moon Eye, but I'm gonna walk up to Moon Eye and be, like, civil and, like, peaceful, and that's how Moon Eye will know I'm not a threat. It's like, you are a threat. You're trying to take Moon Eye back to civilization. He doesn't want to go there. That's why he left. So he goes out, he ties his horse to a tree, because he's like, Moon Eye's gonna get scared if I'm on a different horse, but if I'm not on a horse, he's not gonna get scared. So he, like, leaves his canteen, so, like, then he sees Moon Eye, which is like, oh my god, how'd he pull that off when that other guy hasn't seen him in 10 years? So he sees Moon Eye, and he has his canteen, he's by the river, and he leaves his canteen by the river. Why? Unclear. So he walks up to where Moon Eye is in the clearing, and he walks up to him really slowly, and he's like, I'm here, Moon Eye, I'm here. And he goes so slowly, and when he gets really, really close, like 6 feet away, Moon Eye suddenly runs at him, and he dashes out of the way. And then Moon Eye stops, like 10 feet away from him, but in the other direction. And so he, like, slowly starts to follow Moon Eye. But Moon Eye, like, matches his speed so that they're always the same distance apart. Like, when he stops, Moon Eye stops. And then he's like, okay, if I just wait here for long enough, Moon Eye will come over to me. But then Moon Eye goes over to his canteen by the river. By the way, it's like a shitty creek. It's one of the rivers at Arches National Park that you can't really drink from because it has a bunch of arsenic in it. Or it's the one that's really salty. It's one or the other. I don't know which. All I know is you can't drink from that river. So it is actually very, very hot out. If you're imagining like a whimsical forest, no, it's the desert. Which is kind of ruining the vibes a little bit, but you know. So he waits for an hour? Really? Really? You stood there for an hour. Okay, man. He stands perfectly still for an hour, and Moon Eye also stands perfectly still for an hour, but Moon Eye's by his canteen. He's like, fuck, I need my canteen. But he can't move because Moon Eye's there. And then eventually he's like, okay, I'm gonna go get the canteen. So he walks over to get the canteen, and Moon Eye starts going away. And then they have, like, this tender moment. And then, like, he gets the rope around Moon Eye. And then they cut to, like, later when he's just walking back with his original horse. And he's like, sometimes I hear a sound from behind us, but when I turn around, nothing's there. And I believed it. Because, like, the whole time I was like, okay, if he brings Moon Eye back to civilization, I'm not gonna believe it. But since he didn't do that, I did believe it. But now I'm like, really? Really? That happened? I don't know. Maybe it did. But it's just that, like, there were a lot of things he did that I was like, really? That happened? That eventually gets to be, like, so many that happens that it's like, yeah, sure. Sure, you sledded down the freaking rock, and sure, you were the first person to go to the freaking Rainbow Bridge or something. No. Anyway, I feel like I've been very mean. I feel like this has been very uncharitable to this book. There's a lot I do like about it. Like I said, he's very witty. He's very clever. And his opinions do hold up weirdly well, since it was, like, the 50s or the 60s. All the books from this time around were old, dude. I'm hype for, like, something not old. Hopefully there's something new in the... The book was made in, like, 2019, I think, so theoretically, Mustik should have put some stuff from this century in there, which I'm really hoping for, because, I don't read anything from this century, so I was hoping that this 1,000 Books to Read Before You Die might have some stuff from the century I live in it, because I am so bad at finding that content for myself. But anyway, like, he's using all the same conservation talking points as we use today, but he's like such a gritty environmentalist about, like, he's like a mountain man. It's crazy, dude. He is absolutely just living out there, fishing for his food, doing all this stuff, man. Living off the land. Like I said, some of it's probably a little bit fake, but, you know. And he also, like, takes a very hard line on, like, the issue of Native American reservations. He's like, the government has ruined these people's lives. They need to fix it. They need to give the Native Americans their land back, and the Native Americans are so smart to resist the whims of the greedy developers. He's so anti-greedy developer, and he's so real for that. I'm also anti-greedy developer. A few things don't age amazingly. Like, he's always like, they want to make the hiking trails accessible to people with wheelchairs. It's like, alright, man. But, you know what? By the standards of the time, he's pretty alright. God, I really liked the book. Also, oh my god, fun ass fact about Edward Abbey. He told his family to bury him. And, like, yeah, that doesn't sound like much, but he was like, no coffin, put me in a sleeping bag and put me in the ground. Do not embalm me. Let the freaking animals eat me. Let me become a tree. Which is so real. I would also want to become a tree if I were Edward Abbey. I'm not Edward Abbey, though. I will be demanding one of those, like, big tombs, you know? Like a necropolis. Oh, yeah. It's gonna be cool as hell. I'll be like Lucy Westenra and Dracula up in that place. Why did Lucy get a whole tomb? Hold on. Did she really have that much money? Did Annabelle Lee have that much money? Where are these fictional dead tragic women getting all the money for these, like, big tombs? I don't know. That was very relevant. Give me a necropolis when I die. But yeah, so I'm gonna be honest, I almost cried at the end of the book. Because at the end of the book, he's just like, and then I left. And I was like, maybe I'll come back for another season at the Arches National Park. But at the beginning of the book, he's like, I wanted to come back for another season at the Arches National Park, but I couldn't because the freaking... Hold on. They wouldn't hire me again because the national parks were getting... Oh no, they were getting budget cuts. Oh no! I know I just said that I want books that are, like, more modern, but... Oh god, no. Not the budget cuts to the national parks. Oh no. This is what I mean by, like, a lot of the same issues in this book as we have today. Oh, another thing that was kind of crazy was, like, the whole book, he was like, oh, I'm so lonely, but I love the solitude. It's called Desert Solitaire, for Christ's sake. He's like, I love the solitude. Me in the woods. I haven't seen any of my friends in so long. But then, like, I swear to God, in, like, the fourth to last chapter, he's like, and then my brother walked up. By the way, my brother works here, too. I'm like, what? Queen, what? And then when he describes, like, him leaving, he's like, and he had, like, this super convoluted travel plan to get home, and he's like, and all alone I went home, and it's like, what about your brother? Was his brother a character? Was his brother made up? I'm gonna be honest, discovering that the snow thing probably wasn't true is really ruining my perception of this book retroactively. Like, it's good. It's good. Okay, now I think it's time for my spoiler-free thoughts. Ooh, spoiler-free. So, the big point that I'd make about this book is, like, if you like adventuring, if you like the environment, if you like any of that, this is right up your alley, dude. Like, I'll say this right now, I don't think this was the book for me. I liked it. I don't think it was the book for me. The person who the book is for is my little sister who's an Eagle Scout, and, like, my bestie who... Oh my god, he's such a conservationist. He read Animal Liberation one time and became a vegetarian. He's a loser. Loser alert. So, just like how I said your mom would like Stoner, your hippie vegetarian bestie would love this book. Although, I should point out, Guy is not a vegetarian. He will eat meat in this book. Trigger warning for eating meat. That's in this book. Oh, maybe I should do a trigger warning, actually, for a lot of the other stuff. And the camera didn't move. You're crazy. I didn't just accidentally nudge my laptop into a weird position. You're crazy. Oh my god. This book is running into the freaking... I had a point. Can someone roll back the tape and tell me what my point was? Oh, trigger warnings. Dead man in woods. Kinda gory description of dead man in woods. Injuries. I think that's kind of it. It's just a man in the woods, dude. That's it. For all my spoiler-free people, I'm sorry that I spoiled the fact that he's not even in the woods, he's in the desert. Sorry, if you couldn't tell from the title Desert Solitaire, it's about a man in the desert. Alright? So it's very man versus environment, but it's also very environmentally focused. Which is weird, it's like man versus environment, but also the people that are trying to destroy the environment. It's really great. I think it's a very cool look at the history of the environmentalist movement because it comes from a very sincere place of, like, this is what it was like to be an environmentalist in the 1950s or 60s, depending on when this book is written, because I did forget. Also, everyone that was watching the spoilers knows this, but, it's purportedly a memoir, and I just want anyone who's considering picking this up to know that I'm a little bit skeptical about the veracity of the events in the book. Some of it's a little bit far-fetched. It's very interesting, and I think it's worth your time, but it's a little bit far-fetched. So, Desert Solitaire, wouldn't say highly recommend, would recommend. Alright, I'll be back with one of the 3 remaining books. Probably Tulip, which is gonna leave the 2 that I haven't read this cycle. But, yeah. Ciao. Okay, guys. I'm gonna be so honest. The lock-in train to lock in for my finals that are, like, next week, it's leaving the station. Your boy is not on that train. Your boy is out here talking about my dog Tulip. So, little bit of background info about my dog Tulip. Written by J.R. Ackerley. Very fun. This man was openly gay in Britain at a time wherein not many people were doing that. And this is the part that really gets me. He was like besties with E.M. Forster. I have a whole thing with E.M. Forster. I'm not showing you what my bed looks like because that would be weird, but hanging over my bed is actually a Maurice poster because it's my favorite movie. I have a whole thing with E.M. Forster. Unfortunately, I clearly don't have a thing with J.R. Ackerley because I did not like this book that much. Alright, so once again, skip to the next timestamp if you want the spoiler-free review, because I'm now going to get into the meat and potatoes of My Dog Tulip. Okay, guys, so it does totally occur to me at this moment that I did forget to put in a trigger warning for My Dog Tulip. I'm going to do that right now, because I think it is important you know, before you continue with this video, that there is a lot of dog copulation in this book. I'm not a fan either. But, like, if you don't want to watch a section of the video about dog copulation, you can skip. I'm not gonna blame you. I didn't like it either. I think it has a place literarily. I think there was a reason it was there, but, like, we don't have to like it. We can be friends who don't like this, and we can be friends who skip to the next part of the video. Thank you, Pookies. Before we begin, I don't like dogs. Sorry. Putting that out there right now. I hate dogs. You might be thinking, why would you hate dogs? They've never done anything to you. They've bitten me 4 times. 4 times, and I've actively avoided them every single time. And every time a dog bites me, the owner's like, oh, I have no idea why she did that. You weren't even doing anything, and she's never bitten anyone before. And I'm like, yeah, I don't care that she's never bitten anyone before. I care that she's biting me now. So yeah, I'm sorry. I'm scared of dogs, and even if I weren't scared of dogs, they would create way too much hair and way too much slobber for my liking. Sorry. I don't want a mess in my life when there doesn't have to be a mess in my life. I'm fastidious like that. Okay? Fastidious. God, I'm so pretentious. Do you think anyone's ever told me that I'm so pretentious? Because it kind of seems like they haven't, and that might be a little bit of a failure of the educational system. Alright, but anyway, predictably, My Dog Tulip, with its hideous brown cover, is about J.R. Ackerley's dog, Tulip. So Tulip, she's a very specific breed. She's an Alsatian. Alsatian. I don't care what an Alsatian is. Sorry. Apparently it's like a big pedigree brand, breed of dog, and Tulip is like so beautiful. Everyone always sees Tulip and they're like, wow, that's a pedigree dog right there. There's this whole thing in the book of like if your dog is pedigree or not, and Tulip definitely is. She's very, very nice. So J.R. Ackerley, he's besties with Tulip, and every chapter is about a different episode, essentially, in Tulip's life. Except the back 4 chapters are seemingly about the same episode in Tulip's life. The first chapter, I liked alright. The first chapter was about how he could never take Tulip to the vet because Tulip would get angry and would not let the vet do anything until he brought Tulip to one super duper special vet. Very, very special vet whose name I'm now forgetting. Sorry, Canvey, Miss Canvey. She's a very special vet because she's the best one. She takes one look at Tulip fighting her to get the little injection, and she's like, I see. You're the problem. Miss Canvey identifies where no other vet could that the problem was that when J.R. Ackerley was in the same room as Tulip, Tulip felt like the need to protect J.R. Ackerley and wouldn't let anyone near J.R. Ackerley. Very, very silly. And she's the only one to figure it out, and so they keep going back to Miss Canvey, until Miss Canvey leaves to go work in the country with the horses. It's a whole thing. Very sad. This chapter was delightful. It was called The Two Tulips because Miss Canvey described that as soon as he left the room, Tulip was like really sweet and really nice. The second chapter I liked less. And the second chapter is the reason why I don't like J.R. Ackerley. It's called Liquids and Solids. And it's about tulips need to poo on the sidewalk. And, like, I get it, okay? Dogs need to poo somewhere. But J.R. Ackerley is, like, weirdly defensive of Tulip pooing on the sidewalk. Like, Tulip is pooping on the sidewalk. And the people near him are like, no, bring her into the gutter. Because apparently at this point in Britain, before latex bags had been invented, dogs were expected to poop in the gutter of the street. And whenever people yelled at him for it, he was like, the dog's gonna do what the dog's gonna do. And it's like, it's your job to train the dog, man. I don't want to be tracking dog shit all over my home because your ass couldn't bother to put your dog in the gutter. And, like, yeah, the dog's gonna do what the dog's gonna do, but maybe you shouldn't have the dog if you can't stop it from impeding upon the welfare of, like, literally every single other person that uses the sidewalk. Sorry. I don't know. He was so defensive. Like, oh my god. He was like, I let Tulip poop on my veranda and I don't mind, so clearly everyone else should be okay with Tulip pooping on the sidewalk. He even told this story of, like, he was on the bus and he watched a woman whose dog started pooping on the sidewalk and she tried to drag the dog into the gutter, and on the way, the dog, like, left a line of poo along the... Guys, I'm sorry, I know latex bags hadn't been invented yet, but I feel like there has to be a way of remedying this problem. And in the book, he's like, it's against the law for dogs to poo on the sidewalk, but clearly whoever came up with that law didn't understand dogs. And it's like, no, I think that person understood people. People don't want to walk in your dog's shit, J.R. Ackerley. So, that was chapter 2. Chapter 3 through 6 are about his attempt to get Tulip laid. Which is really unrelatable to me. First of all, because I have no experience with dogs, but also because apparently this is a point where, like, spaying and neutering is not really a thing that almost every domestic dog goes through. So for chapters 3 through 6, he's just on this continuous quest to find another Alsatian of good breeding to hook Tulip up with. Because, like, Tulip keeps going into heat. And, oh my god, the way he describes her when she's in heat is so weird. There's a point in the book where, no joke, this man says, Tulip is so pretty. If I were a dog, I would want to have sex with her too. And it's like, J.R. Ackerley, is this how you think straight people talk? You're not a straight people. You're appropriating their culture, and I frankly don't think they would appreciate it, okay? I don't know, I'm not a straight person either. Straight people, sound off in the comments. If you were a dog, would you fuck that dog? If the answer's yes, don't sound off in the comments. Please don't sound off in the comments if the answer is yes. So he goes through, like, he keeps meeting Alsatians. And he, like, goes to their owner. He's like, is the Alsatian pedigree? Because, of course, Tulip can't have relations with a non-pedigree Alsatian. Oh my god. It's like such a conflict in the book. And every time something goes wrong, because Tulip's always like, I don't wanna. Except when she's like, I do wanna. But the other dog in that case is never very good at it. So, it doesn't work. And they finally find, like, the perfect Alsatian. This Alsatian's built like a king. His owner paid, like, £100 for him. He's a very, very valuable Alsatian. And so, homeboy J.R. Ackerley is like, okay, perfect. We're gonna get the dogs mated. But it turns out that, like, biologically, there's something wrong with this dog, and his owners never knew because they've never tried to have him bred before. And so it turns out that the dog's basically worthless, even though they paid like $100 for him. But, like, the weird thing is every time he sees a male Alsatian, he goes up to his owner and he's like, hey, I have a female Alsatian. And the owner, like, no questions asked. It's like, oh my god, my dog needs to get laid, dude. My dog is a virgin. We need to fix this stat. Oh my god. It's so fake. Why? Oh, okay, I don't really mean it's fake. I just mean, like, dog owners also sound off in the comments. Is this what it's like? Owning a dog. You're just always like, I need to get my dog laid. Because I'm now, like, double happy that I don't like dogs. Because that sounds like a nightmare. It gets to the point where this man's life is being ruled by trying to find a date for his dog. And they always describe it as, like, the dog's getting married. Which I guess is, like, a not terrible way to describe it, but, like, there are multiple scenes where when Tulip is in heat, all of the dogs from all over the street are like, wow, oh my god, I need a piece of that. They're coming out from, like, the freaking gutters. I'm getting a phone call. Guys, I'm telling you, I would literally never interrupt the flow of a video to take a phone call from my father. I'm a professional YouTuber. I would never do that. I technically don't have a job at this moment, so I guess I'm a professional anything I do, because I make just as much money doing this as I do anything else. I'm signing an employment contract in, like, a week, but until then, I'm a professional YouTuber. Holy cannoli, man. But anyway, oh my god. The dogs are coming out from all over the street, like every kind of breed. They're smelling her. They, like, even if they know she's just in a house, they'll be, like, crowding around the outside of the house. It gets to be a real problem. Like, Ackerley is staying with his cousin, and his cousin gets to the point where she's like, oh my god, why did I agree to let you stay here, you fiend? Tulip becomes very close besties with some random mongrel, non-pedigree. And eventually, Ackerley, he's had another season of, like, setting her up with multiple Alsatians and nothing's panned out. And the mongrel comes in and he and Tulip are flirting. And he looks at Tulip and he says, there you go, old girl. Have fun. And that's how Tulip actually does inevitably end up having a litter, which is crazy because for a while there he thought that she was barren, and she was not, which is great. Yay. And it becomes, like, this weird controversy in, like, the dog world that he let his, like, pedigree Alsatian have a litter with this random, like, street mongrel. Anyway, it's, like, a whole thing of preparing for the pregnancy. He has to get, like, this big pregnancy box made for her to, like, deposit her litter in. But he's concerned that she's just gonna give birth in his bed because he finds out that, like, since she sleeps in his bed, that's probably where she's gonna go when she has the litter. But he's like, I love Tulip so much, I don't even care, it's fine. This man loves his dog so much, and that's so cute and so real for him, but, like, I literally could never. Absolutely not. Not even for a second, bro. So, he goes to work, and he comes back, And Tulip doesn't meet him at the door, and he's like, oh my god. Oh no. He goes to his bed, she's not there. She's in the pregnancy box, and she's giving birth. And he's about to call up the vet, but then he's like, she's doing fine on her own. So she has her little litter. There's a bunch of cute little puppies. Very cute, very silly. And he's like, this is too many puppies. So he waits for Tulip to leave the room. And he's like, you know, I once heard that dogs can't count. So, I don't think she'll notice. He takes all of the girl puppies and he goes into the bathroom and he fills like a tub with water and like he gets a flour sack to weigh them down. And then he suddenly develops a conscience. He's like, was I about to drown these puppies, man? So he doesn't drown the puppies. But then it gets to be a problem. This is too many puppies. And the vet's like, oh no, keep all of them. Tulip can look after them. And he's like, Miss Canvey, Tulip cannot look after these puppies. I cannot have this many puppies in my house. So it becomes really stressful for him. And he's like, oh my god, I need to find people that will take these puppies off my hands. And remember how Tulip is really pretty and popular? So like a bunch of people from all over his neighborhood are like, oh my god, I want a Tulip puppy so bad. And they're all like fighting for the Tulip puppies. And he's eventually like forced to get rid of them sooner than he would have liked, because he receives like from the landlord an ultimatum, like, get rid of these freaking puppies or I will evict you. So he hands them out to all of the applicants. And he runs out of applicants, so he has to start giving them out, essentially to, like, random people, which is great. Anyway, he finds out later that, like, all the puppies he's managed to keep track of, they didn't make it. There's a lot of puppy death in this book, guys. Which I can forgive because it's a memoir. You can't really blame him for talking about real puppy death. Anyway, the book basically starts to wrap up, and he has, like, some final meditations. He's like, wow, it never occurred to me that so many people would want their dogs to get laid so badly. And I'm like, yeah, it didn't occur to me either, J.R. Ackerley, but you're part of the problem, bro. Is it a problem? I don't know. I feel like I'm not qualified to talk about puppies. I don't know. I think this is the reason why it's on the list, actually. I think that Mustick found it very admirable that he was touching on these, like, untapped dimensions of pet ownership. A lot of dog books, understandably, don't cover this kind of taboo topic. I think it's interesting in terms of, I think there's an argument to be made that this is consistent with J.R. Ackerley attempting to write things that push the bounds with sexuality, with regards to the fact that he himself was homosexual. I have not read any of his other work, so I can't speak on that. That would be really cool if it's true, but I'm also in no position to speak on that. So, get to the end of the book. Tulip dies. Sorry you had to find out like this. Sorry that this wasn't the first dog book in the history of ever to end without the dog dying. And he's like, wow, Tulip was such a good dog. I love dogs. Tulip was my first dog. Dog. And I'm like, I don't like dogs. I don't know why I read this. But you know what? It's pretty good. Okay, time for my spoiler 3. I can talk. I'm a very accomplished talker. Sometimes I go places and talk, and people are like, wow, you're so good at talking. It's time for my spoiler 3 thoughts. That's what I said the first time. So, My Dog Tulip seemed like a really great book if you like dogs. I don't. I think the style was good. I think it was theoretically interesting at a lot of sections. I think if you're going into this expecting, like, Marley and Me. Don't expect Marley and Me. For all my spoiler-free people, trigger warning for my Dog Tulip. Lot of dog breeding. Very specifically detailed. Lot of dog piss and shit. It's like the gritty underside of pet ownerships. Like, actually, you know what? Maybe if you own a dog, you wouldn't like this book. Because, like, I feel like if I owned a dog, I would want to read books about how great dogs are, not books about how much dogs piss and shit, because I feel like that would be a part of my life that I would be trying to suppress. So maybe if you're about to get a dog, and you want to read a book about a guy that really, really likes his dog, but also, like, wow. You want to know the truth of what it's like. My Dog Tulip, great place to start. I might look into more from J.R. Ackerley, because I do like hearing about queer authors. Not a very queer book, all things considered. Perhaps, I'm not going to call it the opposite of a queer book, because that would imply weird things about straight books. But just, what I'd say is, I can't personally recommend. I see why James Mustick can personally recommend. Might be worth your time. I'm not going to speak on that. Ciao. Alright, bros. The vibes are different right now. I have a splitting headache, but I've been so locked. Actually, you know what? No, I've not been so locked in. I've been so locked in before for most of the videos I've made, but today, I was just reading gay short stories, and I looked at my chemistry stuff for about 20 minutes. I solved like 1.5 problems, and then I gave up. I was like, seems like a later problem. Chemistry? No, it wasn't chemistry. The class that this was for was not remotely chemistry. I have no idea why I said that. Whatever. Anyway, I come to you to speak of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. This book is technically the whole Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, like all 5 books, but I don't think all 5 books are technically what's on the list. I think he's just talking about the first one, and that makes sense, because the later one's a little bit thinner on the ground in terms of quality. I like them. I love them very much. I like them a lot, but anyway, so this is the third time I'm attempting to make a video about a book that I read many, many ages ago, because I have tried to make my Things Fall Apart video twice. Once without planning, once with planning, and my roommate did interrupt both attempts, which is probably for the best, because it was not going especially well. Anyway, I've learned from my attempts to do that one without planning, and I'm doing this one without planning. Sorry. I need a different thing to say. I think I keep saying sorry, and it's getting to be a bit of a thing. Wow, my hair looks bad. Things I should have thought about before I started filming, but I'm not gonna stop now. Anyway, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So, once again, spoilers up front, because I'm gonna do a whole plot summary, and you can skip to the little timestamp that's next if you want to avoid all of that. So, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, it follows a guy named Arthur Dent. His whole shtick is that he's very British and very boring, but I love him very much. In the movie version, he was portrayed by Martin Freeman, and he did a great job of making him very British and very boring. Although, the movie took some liberties with the characters a little bit. I think they made him a little bit less boring, like a little bit less British. It's a bit of a problem, but we're not here to talk about the movies. We're here to talk about the book. So, the initial conflict that he runs into at the very beginning of the book is his house that he loves very much. He's lived there for so long. It's about to get taken down by the zoning committee to create a freeway. The zoning committee they came up to him yesterday, and they were like, hey, Queen, so the plans to do this have been in City Hall for the past, 3 months, so you should have known about it. And he goes to City Hall, and they're, in the basement, where you can't find them. So he's obviously pretty annoyed. So he decides to do the whole, sitting in the tree that's about to get chopped down thing. And he lays down in the mud in front of his house, and he's like, I will not allow you to destroy my house. Very reasonable response. But then, out of nowhere, comes careening his best friend, Ford Prefect. Complete freak of nature. I love Ford Prefect with my entire heart. He's such a freak. Oh my gosh. And you might not have this context because you're not a British person from the year of our Lord whenever this book was written. I need to start, putting a sticky note with when the book was written, because I think I've had to reference it in, every single one of these videos I've made so far, and I haven't known when the book was written a single time. But the Ford Prefect was a pretty solid consumer car, not top of the line, but just a car you would use. So Ford Prefect comes up, he's like, hey, Arthur, buddy boy, we gotta go to the bar stat, because some crazy stuff is about to go down, and we need some salt in our system. And Arthur is so confused, he's like, I'm not gonna do that, man, I gotta protect my house. So Ford, he takes one look at the guy who's trying to bulldoze the house. This guy, by the way, he's descended from Attila the Hun, I think. And it's a big thing how they keep referencing he has these predispositions to, he thinks that he could become a great leader, but he just isn't making it. It's just something deep in his soul is telling him that he's made for something better, and it's because of Attila the Hun. He's not made for anything better. He's just a sad man. It's funnier when you read it. Everything about this book is going to be funnier when you read it. I absolutely think it's worth your time to read it, even though I'm telling you exactly what happens in the book. So Ford, he takes one look at him. He says, hey man, so you two are at an impasse, right? Because he's going to keep laying in the dirt until you he's going to keep laying in the dirt until you decide to not bulldoze his house. And you're going to attempt to bulldoze his house until he stops laying in the dirt. So I think that we have a kind of an amenable arrangement here. I think we're all in agreement about what's happening. So, you should do my friend the kindness of, since we're all rational, considerate individuals in a mutual agreement, you should lay down in the dirt for a while so that my friend can go take a break from laying down in the dirt for a while. Somehow this works. He's like, okay, sure. He lays down in the dirt. He's a little bit confused about what's just happened. Arthur's a little bit confused, but Ford's like, come on, man. Let's go. So they go to the bar, and Ford's chugging beers. He's pounding sandwiches. He's like, Arthur, you need to drink a bunch of beers and pound a bunch of sandwiches because the world's about to end. And Arthur's like, what? Queen, what do you mean the world's about to end? He's like, just keep doing it. So, after a while of eating sandwich and pounding beer, suddenly they hear a boom from really far away. It's not the world ending. It's Arthur's house getting bulldozed. And Arthur's like, what? We had an agreement! And Ford's like, this is not gonna matter in a few minutes anyway. And Arthur's obviously pretty upset because he has no idea what Ford Prefect is talking about. But then, out of nowhere, comes a loud, booming voice that everyone on Earth can hear. And it's just an alien spaceship, a Vogan Starfleet, saying, attention all Earthlings! Your planet is getting bulldozed to form an interplanetary freeway. What do you mean you didn't know about it? The plans have been in the planning office for the past 300 light years. not 300 light years. 300 years! It's only 15 light years away. You should have seen the plans. All the Earthlings are getting really upset about it, including the Attila the Hun guy. And Ford's just like, well, world's ending. We gotta figure something out, buddy, old boy. So Arthur's really confused, freaking out. Then, suddenly, bombs are raining down. The world is ending, and suddenly, Arthur and Ford, they're just in the spaceship. Our dear friend, Ford Prefect, has used, essentially, a fun spaceship equivalent of, like, a thumbs up in the road, and they're now hitchhiking on this Vogan Starfleet. They're in the little underquarters where the Vogan's cooks live. They have their own species name that I can't remember. There's a lot of lore. There's so much lore. You guys should read this book because there's so much lore. So, they're in here, and Arthur's like, what? And Ford's like, yeah, man, I'm from a different planet. It's in Alpha Centauri. My name is actually this long, unpronounceable thing, but all my friends call me X. I called myself Ford Prefect because that's a really common name. Back on Earth, he thought that the cars were the dominant species for a minute there. It's a whole thing. Anyway, here's the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. He gives Arthur this book that says, don't panic on it, because if you're hitchhiking the galaxy, you gotta know not to panic. And it essentially contains all of the information about the galaxy. So, Arthur, he looks at it, he's like, wow. He looks at the entry for Earth, because he's seen there's so many entries that are so detailed and so long. And he goes to the entry for Earth, and there's just 2 words. Mostly harmless. Absolutely tragic. Arthur is completely eviscerated. He's like, why is our planet unimportant? And Ford's like, I'm an editor for the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and that's what I was doing on Earth, is I was doing field research about Earth for the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and I actually made the entry longer. And Arthur's like, oh, so where's the new entry? And he's like, this is the new entry. The previous entry just said harmless. Real improvement. So Arthur is very upset at this point because his entire planet has gotten destroyed. Then suddenly, the Vogon captain comes in. He's like, stowaways? What the dip, dude? This is a mess to the heck up. But Arthur can't understand any of that because he doesn't speak Vogon. So Ford sticks a fish in his ear. Oh yeah, a fish. It's called the babblefish. There's a whole little treatise about the babblefish, and I love this so much. I'm going to summarize it even though I usually wouldn't do this for all the little tiny treatises in there. The babblefish, it can translate any language to any language once you stick it in your ear. It connects to your telepathic frequencies or something. And the babblefish is the number 1 piece of evidence people use to deny the existence of God. Because if there's a God that doesn't want people to know that he's there, he never would have allowed something as convenient as the babblefish to evolve. I know, it's silly. Like I said, it's not as funny when I say it, but it's really funny when Douglas Adams says it, because he's the funniest man ever. So, the Vogon captain, he picks them up. Vogons, they're like terribly distemperate. They're awful people. You don't wanna be with a Vogon. And the Vogon captain's like, we're gonna kill you all for coming in and invading our ship. And Ford's like, what if you don't? And he's like, no, we're gonna do it, but first I'm gonna read you some of my poetry. Vogon poetry, it's so terrible that it will ruin your life. like, you will die from just hearing Vogon poetry. And he's like, and if you like the poetry enough, maybe I'll let you live. So they're brought to this, like, execution chamber, and he starts reading him his poetry, and Arthur can't even tell what it means. Even though he has the babblefish, he has no idea what it means. He can just tell that it is so, so bad. But when he stops for a minute to ask them how they liked the poetry, Ford is like, I don't know. And Arthur, he pulls some incredible language out of his ass. He's like, the florid effervescence of the didactic something or the fuck ever. It's incredible. He just pulls this out of his ass. It's so good. Ford's looking at him. He's amazed. He's like, oh my god, Arthur's gonna save our lives. The Vogon, he takes one look at them. Arthur has complimented his poetry to high heaven. He's like, shut the fuck up. Nobody should ever compliment my poetry. Death immediately. So he pushes them out of he puts them in the airlock. Arthur's like, oh my god, Ford, what's your plan? What are you gonna do? Because you're smart. You know everything. You can save us. And Ford's like, no the fuck I can't, man. We're dead. And they get pushed down to the airlock. It's great. And then, next chapter, they're picked up by a ship passing by. Ford's like, wow, that's crazy. The odds of that are, like, insurmountably tiny. And Arthur's like, wow, that sounds about right. The odds of this must have been insurmountably tiny. That's crazy. And they immediately run into two familiar faces. Familiar faces? What do you mean familiar faces? We've met, like, no other characters. First of all, we meet Trisha McMillian, the only other human to survive. She's incredible. I love Trillian so much. She goes by Trillian now. She's just this absolutely, like, brilliant astrophysicist, scientist lady. She's awesome. She's, like, the only one of them that has a brain cell, literally ever. Arthur met Trillian at a party a few weeks ago, and at the party, he was picking her up. But then a hotter, cooler man came by. It's very easy to be hotter and cooler than Arthur because he is prototypical British man. Hotter, cooler, British... no, not British. Hotter, cooler, less British, because he's not British, man comes by. He picks up Trillian. She's like, wow, this guy seems like more fun. And that's the guy. Except he looks a little bit different, because now he has 2 heads and 3 arms. His name is Zaphod Beeblebrox, and he is the president of the entire universe. Ford, he looks at them, he only recognizes one of them. He's like, Zaphod, my cousin! And he turns to Arthur. He's like, hey man, this is like my 17 cousin something. We share 4 of the same mothers. Crazy lore to drop about the way that people are created on Alpha Centauri, but real and true, King. So, Zaphod was initially like, wow, I hate that we picked up these guys. But then he's like, Ford Prefect, my man. Except he calls him X, because that's the thing that Ford Prefect gets called. And Trillian and Arthur, they're having a little bit more of an awkward time. Trillian's the one that insisted they pick up these random hitchhikers. And Arthur's like, wow, that guy really was hotter than me, wasn't he? And Trillian's like, hey man, I've been exploring the universe for the past 2 weeks, okay? My life is way cooler than yours. So they're on this spaceship. It's called the Heart of Gold. And it's just this really sick spaceship. It's the sickest spaceship ever. And we know that because Zaphod Beeblebrox stole it. He's currently on the run. You might be thinking, why did the president feel the need to steal something? It's because it's like an ineffable presidency. He doesn't actually do anything as president. He just kind of got to be president because he was like this big tastemaker. I've heard people compare him to Donald Trump. I don't like that, because I like Zaphod Beeblebrox, and I don't want him to be compared to Trump. I think Zaphod Beeblebrox sucks because the world around him sucks. Like, the universe, the political systems are just so fundamentally unmoored from anything legitimate that Zaphod Beeblebrox is just a perfect product of them. I don't like to think of the American political system that way, okay? I see the potential, alright? Zaphod Beeblebrox is not Trump. He does have, like, a signature cocktail, though, that he invented, and it's very popular because it will ruin your life. You drink one Pan-Galactic Gargle Blaster and you'll be remembering it. Actually, you will not be remembering it. You will not be remembering anything. Big Pan-Galactic Gargle Blaster enthusiast over here. I've always imagined that it's like blue, but most people depict Pan-Galactic Gargle Blast as just a clear liquid, and that makes me sad. I know that's what cocktails are, but it makes me sad. So, they're the people that are on board, plus Marvin the paranoid android. He's just a robot, and he kind of sucks. I love him for that. He's so smart because he's a robot. He's so brilliant, but he's nah. So, they're on the Heart of Gold. It's this very fancy spaceship. And they want to find out what the meaning... I don't actually remember quite how they got to this point, but they're just kind of fucking around the universe, and then they come across this planet that's always been, like, prophesied, and it's, like, great lore planet that, oh my god, everyone always got told about when they were kids, but it's not really real. It's a planet of just amazing, amazing architects that wanted to discover what the meaning of life is. So, they come across this planet, and they go down to the planet. Well, oh my god, wait, I did skip a bunch of stuff. Sorry! So the Heart of Gold, the big thing that's cool about it is that it has an improbability drive inside of it, which is basically a button where if you press it, something completely improbable happens. That's how they picked up Ford and Arthur, is the improbability drive. So, at one point, they're getting chased, they're in very imminent danger, they're suspended right above the scary planet that of like architects and stuff. They're not supposed to be able to go there, and there's missiles coming at them from the planet. That's what they're getting chased by. Absolutely terrifying. 2 missiles. And everyone's freaking out. Arthur is the only one that does anything, while everyone else is huddled around the console. They're all saying smart science stuff. Arthur has no idea what's going on. He's so stupid. He accidentally presses the improbability drive, and the missiles are transformed. One of them turns into a whale. One of them turns into a potted plant. The whale, as it's falling down, we get a very detailed description of everything the whale's thinking. The whale's like, wow, I've just been born. This is so cool. There's so much stuff coming at me. It's like the wind as he falls down. I'm gonna call this wind. Wow, when it's so blue below me, that's so cool. I'm gonna call this sea. And I'm here. I'm gonna call myself Gary. And he like keeps thinking through everything, and he like keeps coming up with names of stuff, and he's getting so close to the sea. He's like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I'm finally gonna get to see the sea. And then he just dies. Splat. The potted plant only has one thought as it falls to its death. Not again. Scholars have debated for centuries what the potted plant was thinking about when it thought, not again. That didn't happen. You're crazy. Okay, guys, I think I just need to turn off my notification sounds whenever I start filming, because I think that's like the 5th time this video. It's not good. Anyway, where was I? So, now that they're safe, they're like, screw it. We're gonna go land on the cool planet. So they go down to the planet, and then someone presses the improbability drive and they're separated. Arthur, he's alone with a dude who, like, he lives on the planet. He's lived there forever. He's one of the master engineers. And he's like, hey, you're from Earth, dude. That's so cool. I, like, made Earth. He's like, what? You made Earth? And he's like, well, not all of it. I just made the fjords. I'm very proud of my fjords. I made Norway. Very, very proud of Norway and also the fjords. Thought that was great. And he takes him down to, like, his creepy little basement under the planet. It's this giant complex where these master engineers, the thing they did was they made custom planets. Anyone that wanted a planet, they came to them and they'd make them these giant custom planets. And the reason why they've become mythical and gone away is because no one has enough money anymore to afford their custom planets. So they all kind of went into hibernation, hopefully for long enough that somebody would eventually have the capital to buy their custom planets. So, he takes Arthur into a room where he sees, like, a video. It's some holographic video or something. It's, like, fancier than that. And in the video, it's showing a past thing from the past where hundreds and hundreds of centuries of millennia ago, some very big number, a bunch of mice were crowded around a room. Mice, by the way, are the smartest things on Earth. What? Who could have guessed? Dolphins are the second smartest thing on Earth. We're the third. Pretty solid place to be. I don't think Douglas Adams knew about some of the stuff dolphins get up to when he decided to make them the second smartest things on Earth. But whatever. Turns out that the mice commissioned the Earth. Because many, many centuries of millennia or something ago, the mice, they had a big supercomputer that they had running constantly to determine what is the answer to life, the universe, and everything. The answer was 42. Immediately, they were all like, what? What do you mean? What? And the computer was like, I've thought about it really hard. I've checked my work, man. It's 42. They're like, contextualize that. And he's like, are you asking me what the question to life, the universe, and everything is? Because this is the answer to the life, universe, and everything. Are you wondering what the question is? And they're like, yeah, so what's the question? He says, I'm gonna have to think about that. Except, I can't think about that. I'm not smart enough. You need a much smarter computer. Get like a really, really smart computer and give it like several millennia. And then you'll have an answer. So the mice commissioned Earth. Earth is the smarter computer. It's been running for unfathomably long just to figure out what the answer to life, the universe, and everything was. And it was just about a day short of finding the answer when it was exploded by the Vogons to make way for the intergalactic freeway. By the way, we find out later that the intergalactic freeway never even gets made. What the flibbity-gibbet, man? Unfair. So, intergalactic highway, never gonna get made. So sad. So the mice come in, and they're like, our plans have worked. We have you, Arthur. You're gonna help us figure out what the question to life, the universe, and everything is. And he's like, how about no? And then stuff happens, and high-key I forget. I'm sorry. The Wikipedia summary doesn't say what happens next, and I forgot. It's my favorite, it's like my second favorite book, and I did forget, and I'm sorry for that. You're gonna have to forgive me. You're crazy. Anyway, then, eventually, Arthur escapes, And he's back on the ship with Ford, Trillian, Zaphod, and Marvin, and they're all like, wow, let's go get lunch at the restaurant at the end of the universe. And that gets us into the next book, Restaurant at the End of the Universe. Oh yeah! Also, by the way, something I think is really cute is that every one of the titles of the books are actually appears in the first book. The first one's Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, obviously, because it's about the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Restaurant at the End of the Universe appears in the last line of the first book. Life, the Universe, and Everything. Answer to Life, the Universe, and Everything. So Long and Thanks for All the Fish. I actually didn't mention this one, but when the dolphins left Earth because they were the second smartest things there. Most of the mice are dead, by the way. The mice didn't escape. Sorry, mice. But the dolphins did escape. They all went on their boat, they all went on their rocket ships, and as they left, they said, so long and thanks for all the fish. Because they'd spent all those years pretending to just be stupid little circus animals. Just for the funsies. Dolphins, they're just there for the funsies, and maybe that's the smartest thing you can possibly be. And then Mostly Harmless is the last one. I think that's so cute. So, I'm about to get into why I love this book so much. And before I do that, I want to give you some spoilers for the future installments of Hitchhikers. So I'm now giving you the opportunity to jump to the next timestamp if you perhaps have already read the first book and haven't read the later books and do care about spoilers. Feel free to jump to the next timestamp. Okay, so part of the reason why I felt the need to detail that whole anecdote about the whale and the flower pot is because Douglas Adams does this incredible thing in his writings of setting up jokes books in advance. And this is my favorite joke that he ever set up with the flower pot and the dolphin. No, and the whale. It feels very natural at the time, like just very silly little absurdist humor. No real bones about it. You're not really confused about why this has happened. But about 3 books later, I'm not quite sure which one it is. I think it's So Long and Thanks for All the Fish. Arthur and Ford are hanging out together, and then they teleport somewhere, but they end up getting separated while teleporting. And Arthur is teleported to, like, this creepy room that has a giant statue of him with, like, 1,000 arms murdering so many things and people. Like, it's him with a fly swatter, him eating a hamburger, just so many things. And Arthur goes in, and there's just an angry alien. And his name is Agrajag. And Agrajag, he says to Arthur, "You killed me." And Arthur's like, "You seem pretty alive." And he said, "No, reincarnation exists in this universe." Which is crazy. It's crazy that they just put that out there in, like, the second to last book. Reincarnation is the way of the universe. Reincarnation exists in this universe, and you have killed me every single time I've been reincarnated. He's exclusively been reincarnated as things Arthur has killed. He's been flies that Arthur swatted. He's been hamburgers that Arthur has eaten. He's been like this one guy that Arthur did accidentally kill at one point. He was the whale, and then he was the flower pot. And that's why the flower pot thought, "Oh no, not again." And I don't know why he would ever confront Arthur. That's so stupid. Why are you so dumb? Because obviously Arthur ends up killing him. He accidentally tips over the statue and it lands on him. Obviously, dude. How else did you think this was gonna end? Anyway, it's not half as funny when I describe it, but I'm telling you guys, this is Douglas Adams' forte, is these stupid jokes that he sets up so far in advance. One more joke that I just want to highlight from a later book, it's very short, I just really appreciate it, is Flying is also possible in this universe. Anyone can do it. It's very simple, but it's very difficult to pull off. You simply have to fall, aim for the ground, and then miss. See? It's intuitive. If you miss where you're aiming, you don't land there. Anyway, those two jokes are spoilers, and that subsides the spoiler section of the video. Okay, why do I like to... That didn't happen. I need more jokes. I spend all my time saying, sorry, and that didn't happen, and I think it's gonna be funny every time, but it's not. Why do I like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? It's so funny. Like, that's it. It's just really, really funny. And in a way that's very satirical about the world. I like sci-fi a lot, but specifically only really when there's a satirical point to it. I don't really go in for, like, serious sci-fi. I just like when the sci-fi is funny and when the sci-fi is critiquing something real. And that's kind of all Douglas Adams does in this book, is, like, every inconvenience that they come across is kind of just a facsimile of a real-world inconvenience, you know? And it's very cleverly done in such a way that, like, it's not hitting you over the head with the satire, but it's still very much the point. It's very much the thesis, and it's very much hilarious. So, big fan of that. Also, the thing that I highlighted earlier in the video in the introduction, I believe, Douglas Adams is just earnestly such... When you read his books, it feels like he genuinely likes all of his characters. He genuinely likes you, the reader. He genuinely likes the world around him, even if he does think that it's pretty silly at times. Like, I'll say this, if you read this book and you like it, besides reading the rest of the series, Salmon of Doubt. I'm telling you, it's just his little essays, and I know that you're probably not a little essay person. You don't sit down and read a collection of essays. I don't either, okay? Trust me. It's, like, life-changing, dude. So, I feel like this is the thing that a lot of authors struggle with, is convincing me that they like their characters. You know, it's the most insufferable thing. That's my number one complaint with Noel Coward, is when I read a Noel Coward play, I feel like he does not have the milk of human kindness in him. I feel like he doesn't like any of his characters, and if you don't like your own characters, how can you expect me to? But, like, Douglas Adams is so mean to all of his characters. He roasts them to oblivion, except for Trillian. Trillian's great. So, actually, he does get a little savage on Trillian later on. Whatever, he, like, but it always kind of feels like he has their best interests at heart. Like, he wants the characters to succeed, even if he does also kind of want to make sure they don't succeed. And I just really appreciate that. I think it's really refreshing. I genuinely feel like he cared about his books in a way that makes me want to care about his books too. And he cares about the environment, and he cares about science, and he's so smart. I'm serious. Like, read Salmon of Doubt, and you'll come away from every chapter feeling self-conscious about your own, about how funny you are, and about how smart you are. Because Douglas Adams, he truly was a complete gem. Alright, who would I recommend this to? Everyone. Sorry. I recommended all the other books to very specific people. If you have a heart and a soul, you will like The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Alright, I'll be back later for Things Fall Apart. If I'm wearing the same shirt, please flame me in the comments. That means that I have not been doing my work, which is what I'm supposed to do as soon as I stop filming. And is actually probably what I should be doing instead of filming. It's been 40 minutes. This video is going to be at least 3 hours long. If you've gotten to this point, I'd tell you to get a life, but you're probably not watching this, like, wrapped. I'm sure you're, like, second screening it while you work on your own homework. Love you. Alright, party people. Last book. I'm gonna try to speedrun this one because I high-key do have, a class in, like, 50 minutes. So that's fun. I'm not wearing the same shirt from yesterday. I mean, from the... Nothing's happening. So, Things Fall Apart. I'm going to jump right into the plot summary, so go ahead and skip to the timestamp if you are a person that's wary about spoilers. Things Fall Apart takes place in pre-colonial... It's in British Nigeria, and white men have been around. They're not here right now. So I wrote pre-colonial in my notes. It's kind of not true. But it all takes place in the village of Umuofia, except a little bit of it takes place in a nearby village. And the thing to note about Umuofia is that they're very spiritually connected to this deep web of spiritual traditions relating to their spirits and just all kinds of things. They have this very deep well of tradition, and some of it's pretty damaging. Just so we're clear, a lot of it's really cool and valuable, like their practices around yam farming, for example, but it's all very misogynistic, and they do kill twins. When twins are born, they immediately murder them because they believe that twins have evil souls. There's like a mother in the book who keeps having twins, and they keep getting killed, and it's kind of tearing her apart. It's awful. It's a terrible thing that's happening, and it's important to note that the traditions here are not unilaterally great. But no traditions of any empire have ever been unilaterally great. So, we follow Okonkwo. He is so cool because he's so good at wrestling, he's so good at farming, he's so hardworking. He's like the best ever. Okonkwo, everyone respects Okonkwo because he farms yams better than anyone else. Yams are the man crop. If you farm yams, you're a tough guy man. All of your, like, daughters and young sons and your wives, they have to farm other stuff, like cassava. You're out here with the yams. Okonkwo, he had to build himself up from nothing, but now he has a really big house. He has, like, 4 wives. He's so cool. He had to build himself up from nothing because his father, Unoka, total wastrel. Unoka was very good at talking. He had so many friends that he made by just talking, but he was constantly in crippling debt because he was always borrowing from them because he was a wastrel. Unoka didn't get nothing done. He had no sense of duty to his family. You better believe Okonkwo's got a little bit of daddy issues up in the old tank. He's got some daddy issues relating to Unoka being a total wastrel. I love the word wastrel. I'm sorry. So Okonkwo, he creates this big sense of masculinity for himself that's very much centered around his capacity to provide for his family and his capacity to lead his family. And I say lead his family because this is going to get pretty uncomfortable pretty quick. He has these dual responsibilities to his family and to the traditional values of his society. Traditional values of his society that glorify the man above the women and children of the house. And he's perhaps a little bit beats his wives when they don't do what he tells them to. which is awful. That sucks so bad. But that's the man Okonkwo is. So, he has a bunch of children. There's 3 that are important to the plot. Ezinma, Nwoye, and Ikemenefuna. Ezinma, she's my goat, man. I love Ezinma so much. Ezinma is his favorite. Because Ezinma, even though she's a girl, she's way smarter than the others. And she has, like, boy energy. And Okonkwo, he needs that girl with the boy energy in his life. Ezinma's mother is the wife of his that kept having twins. So she's very protective over Ezinma because she's, like, the only one that is left. Absolutely tragic. And of course Okonkwo is not sympathetic to that conflict at all. He's just like, man, Ezinma's my goat. I don't care about her loser mother. Complete loser. Never gets anything done. Then, Nwoye, he's just like the important son. He's the son of Okonkwo's favorite wife. At a point, the favoritism rankings are constantly moving around for the wives. And that's another thing, is that he has like a stated, this is the favorite wife. And I'm sure to some extent that's rooted in the cultural practice. I'm not going to say for sure, because I don't know. So, Nwoye is this big point of, he's a little bit girlier than he really ought to be. He's probably not going to be a big dick yam farmer. And that worries Okonkwo. But then Okonkwo has Ikemenefuna. Ikemenefuna, not actually his son. Ikemenefuna, he was the son of a man that murdered someone from Umuofia. And so Umuofia exacted from this man's village the tribute of his life and his son. So Ikemenefuna, Umuofia took him upon themselves, and they were like, yo, Okonkwo, you always do what you're told because of your obligation to the traditional mores of this society. You're, like, so obsessed with being honorable and doing the right thing. Take this boy, he's your son now. Ikemenefuna, he's so cool. Everyone loves Ikemenefuna. He's like the best son ever. Nwoye looks up to Ikemenefuna. We all love Ikemenefuna so much. It's so great. A bunch of stuff happens. There's a lot of, like, smaller things that happen that are largely flavor establishing the way that this village works. And then, the village council, many years after Ikemenefuna has been brought into Okonkwo's family, they call him up. I'm going to use a phone, but there wasn't really a phone involved. They're like, yo, Okonkwo, we finally figured out what we want to do with that kid. We're sacrificing his ass. And Okonkwo, he doesn't like this, but he can't admit it, because it's his duty as a big, strong man and symbol of the village to be like, yes, tradition. I believe in tradition. So, Okonkwo sets it up so that Ikemenefuna is going to go out on a little trip. He's going to get killed on that trip. And Okonkwo is going to go on it. But then Okonkwo, he runs into this old man that used to be friends with Unoka. And he's like, hey, Pookie, the village can't fault you if you don't personally kill your adopted son, okay? You don't have to go on the trip. No one's actually going to be that mad at you. But Okonkwo, he's so obsessed with this perception of himself as honorable and traditionalist and big strong man energy. He's like, no, I am going to go on the trip. He goes on the trip to kill Ikemenefuna. Someone else hits Ikemenefuna, and Ikemenefuna, he runs towards Okonkwo, and Okonkwo does in the final stroke. And this ruins his life for a little while. There's a long period of time where he cannot eat, and he's just at home in his hut, just so despondent, just so horribly depressed. Because of course he is. He killed his adopted son, who he loved very much. but this depression is corrosive to his soul because he believes in himself as a person that works hard. It's the way that he identifies himself with the world, is that he has to be this man who works harder than anyone else. So he's like, he can't admit it to anyone how horrible he feels. And of course, Nuoye, he sees his father not even upset. Because from where he's standing, Okonkwo has not apologized. Okonkwo, he's not actively despairing. Nuoye sees this and he decides that he does not love his father. He hates him. Which, you know what? Fair, Nuoye. You're so real and so fair for that. More time passes. And the man who told Okonkwo not to murder Ika Minafuna, he dies. Okonkwo, he goes to his funeral, and he fires a gun, ceremonially. That does not go well. The gun, it, explodes a little bit, and it kills that guy's son, the dead guy's son. So the village is immediately like, he didn't mean to, but he still did it. So Okonkwo and his whole family, they get sent into exile. So it's for a set amount of time. I think it's about 5 years. They're sent into this exile. Don't quote me on that, guys. I don't take very good notes on these, okay? So he goes into this exile with all of his favorite family. They're off in the land of his mother, because there's a whole thing about the land of your mother and the land of your father, and he lives in the land of his father, because that's what you're supposed to do. So he's living in the land of his mother, and all of his family on his mother's side, it's like, wow, Okonkwo, you're depressed. And he is depressed. He's not working as hard as he used to. He is working, but he's not doing it nearly as hard. And he feels worthless and useless because of this. Because once again, this is the entire way Okonkwo has learned to define himself. While he's in exile, something strange starts to happen. Slowly but surely, an insidious force begins to creep its way over the narrative. It's me. It's white people. Yay, white people. So first, there's a Father Brown, and Father Brown, he's very nice, he's very, laissez-faire, he's like, yeah, we're gonna convert people, but we're only gonna convert the people that are into it, man. Okonkwo's like, this is not good, this man sucks, he's terrible. Father Brown dies, he gets replaced by Father Smith. Father Smith is like, we're gonna convert people, and if they don't want to convert, bad things are gonna happen to them. Oh no! And everyone's a little bit freaked out. They're like, hey, this is a little bit freaky. And so they're like, okay, let's ostracize these guys. And this all has happened before Okonkwo comes back. He comes back to Umuofia, and everyone's kinda ostracizing these white guys. Except some of the weirdo freaks that no one likes, they're joining the white guys. Oh no. Azinma's mother starts to seem a little bit too close to the white guys. Oh no. It turns out that weirdo freaks who are not loved by their village will jump on board as soon as somebody offers them a belief system wherein they're not actually weirdo freaks, they're just people suffering from pretty normal, reasonable, worldly fears and complaints that are treated as trivial by their society. Who could have known? Which is not to say, once again, that the white people are good and great. They are not. However, this society is also not good and great. There are problems with both things. So, the situation escalates. And eventually, our main man, Nuoye, homeboy, he hooks up with the white people. And Okonkwo's like, what the flippity gibbet, man? That's my son. This is messed the heck up. Why is my son rebelling against me? I only rebelled against my father because he sucked. But my son can't do that because I'm cool and good. Just so we're clear. So that's fun. Anyway, one day, they're having a cute little ceremony. I shouldn't call it cute little. That's demeaning to these guys' cultural stuff. I'm sorry. I don't think the ceremony is actually cute and little. I just call everything cute little, okay? So they're having a cool big ceremony, wherein part of it is that there's these spirits called egwugus that are masked. And while they're having this ceremony, Enoch, one of the weirdo freaks that joined up with the white people, he comes over, unmasks the egwugu. This is a big deal. All the egwugus, like, swarm around. They have to protect this man so no one can see his face. Everyone's freaking out. And then Okonkwo and all the village leaders, they're like, we need to do something, man. Enoch, he's one of the white people now, and he's trying to ruin our traditions. Which, you know what? Fair. He is one of the white people now, and he is trying to ruin their traditions. So they're like, okay, we're gonna burn down the white person compound. They burn down the white person compound. Then, when they're having a meeting, a bunch of white people, they come at them. They're like, what the heckity heck, man? You can't be doing that. Okonkwo beheads one of them immediately. Okonkwo, he expects the entire village to rise up. Their way of life is being destroyed. But instead, everyone looks at him and they're like, it's a little bit extreme. A little bit of an extreme move on your part, Okonkwo. Okonkwo cannot handle this. Okay. He cannot handle losing in any way the approval of his village. It's been hard. It's been a hard journey for Okonkwo because he did have to rise up from so much nothing and become someone worth something. And at so many turns in this book, this work is not reciprocated. There's a point in the book that I didn't mention earlier, but there's a point where he does beat one of his wives, but he does it during the week of peace. I would hope that every year would be like a year of peace by this definition, but in the week of peace, you can't beat your wives. And he is severely punished by the village for this and taxed heavily. And then, of course, he was exiled for something that was patently not his fault. And he killed Ikemenefuna at the behest of his village, and it, corroded his soul. He could not handle it. And this is the final straw, that these traditions that he has slavishly been professing his devotion to, that the other people do not care enough to protect them. So, we cut to a different perspective. The perspective of some kind of army official of some sort. He's like a British general of some kind. Very white man. And he comes to the village to investigate this Okonkwo thing. He's like, hey, that guy murdered someone. It's like, hey, can you show me the guy that murdered the guy? And they take him to Okonkwo's hut. And they say, can you get someone? We need help. Because we are ritually not allowed to touch the body of a person who has killed themselves. Because Okonkwo is there and he is dead. Because he could not bear the fact that his tradition turned on him, he completely violated one of the core conceits of that tradition, he just simply could not continue to live in this way. So the white guy, he's like, all right, we'll go get a bunch of people. And he mentions in this offhand way, wow, this is going to be a really good anecdote to put in my book, Pacification of the Primitive Tribes of the Lower Niger. It's going to be a great 2 paragraphs. And that's it. And oh my god, that ending, because, like, if you've read anything like the book that this general guy presumably wrote, you kind of know the vibe of what he's talking about. Just like a 2 paragraph little excerpt where they're like, look at this thing that happened. And it's so baffling to see the life of this man, who we have spent so much time with, reduced to, this is going to be a great 2 paragraph thing. No, it's not a great 2 paragraph thing. It is the life of a person that we have learned to value some traits of. Okonkwo is not a good person. I do not unilaterally align myself with Okonkwo, but I've learned to have sympathy for him and to value his perspective, even if I don't think that he is good or that he does good things for the people around him. Right? Like, I have to value his work ethic. I have to value his extreme sense of honor. I have to value his strength. I don't value his lack of compassion, and I don't value just his complete bullheadedness. But there's a lot of things about him that I think are very admirable, and to see him cut down by the crushing weight of it all is devastating. And then the people of the village who sacrificed their traditions so easily when they were worried for their own skins, they can't sacrifice their traditions to give their hands to their friend, to bury him. And it's heartrending. It really, really is heartrending. I cannot stress that enough. So, the best comparison I can draw with this book is, like, this is some Fences stuff right here, dude. I love Fences all day, every day, and I swear to God, Troy Maxon and Okonkwo cut from the same cloth, dude. They both have this sense of need to provide for their families as a duty, not as a compassionate thing. Because neither of them have real affection for their family. Obviously, Okonkwo does, to some extent, care about Azinma, about Ika Minafuna, but more broadly, he wants them to fit into the roles in the society that they need to. And then Troy Maxon, of course, unremittingly does not care about any of his family. Absolute jerk behavior. He just cares about being a person that provides. Because, oh my god, both of them have the same exact daddy issues. Oh my god, both of them are like, my father was a wastrel and I need to do better. Even though they don't actually see the heart of the compassion that you need to have to truly be better. And then both are so admirable in their own capacities, even though they're completely vile in other ones. Oh my god, truly incredible. I love how this utilized the Western tragic formula so well, which I thought was a really interesting touch for a book of this make. Alright, I believe that wraps it up for spoilers, so it's time for me to give my recommendation. Oh my gosh, I'm telling you guys, it's so rich in terms of what it can teach you about tradition. Thematically, it's wildfire, dude. It's incredible. The emotionality of it all is so potent that you will feel it in your soul. Truly, Things Fall Apart, I think I'm willing to say it was the best book from this packet. Even though Hitchhiker's Guide is, like, my second favorite book ever, like, I think in terms of craft, I think in terms of delivering a message, I think Things Fall Apart is just more it's just so valuable. Oh my god. So, who do I think should read this book? This is my new format. I've decided the format is that whenever I read one of these books, I'm going to say who should read it. Not if you should read it, because I think that there is a market for every book. I'm going to tell you what I think that market is. And you know what? I think the market for this book is, if it sounds interesting to you, you should read it. If it doesn't sound interesting to you, you need to read it. Because if you don't have enough of a familiarity with what Things Fall Apart is touching on, with the colonialism of it, with the clash with these traditions, you need that. You need to understand what happened, because the story of Things Fall Apart is a story that repeats itself throughout history over and over again. And it's truly so valuable. Okay, oh my god. That was the last book. So, now I can finally find out what the next packet is. So, I'm gonna jump this over to me from the future, and you can see what the books... Oh my god, I don't even know what... It better be some good shit, dudes. Because this was a really strong packet, and we'll see. Alright guys, now it's time for the part of the video that I have been waiting for so long. Okay, we're finally going to find out what the next 5 books are. But before we do that, I do have a confession. So, I know that for like the past however many minutes long this video ends up being, probably like 2 hours, oh my god, I have been claiming that I don't know what the books are. For like the back 2/3 of the video, I definitely did, okay? Because I'm actually filming this right after I've finished reading My Dog Tulip and Desert Solitaire, thereby finishing out the packet, but I've not recorded videos for like anything except for Flatland and the introduction. So, I'm sorry guys, I've been lying. I know I should record those videos before I look at the books, but in my defense, I'm not going to do this in the future, but in my defense, I'm going home for Christmas in about a week. And if I don't put holds on these books soon, I won't be able to bring them home with me, because they won't get to the library by the time it's time to go home for Christmas. Okay? Okay? I'm sorry. We gotta... interests here. We gotta make sure that the video can happen on time, okay? On time, I say, as if there is a time I've allotted for any of this. Okay, so I have the list of books up on like on the Amazon right here. I'm looking at like the sample preview. I don't own the book yet. It would be really nice if I owned this book that I'm deciding to commit like the next 10 years of my life to. I'll own it soon, but for now, I'm just gonna look at the Amazon preview, and I know that's disappointing because it's kind of sad that you're just watching me look at the thing and me telling you, like, what it says, but before we begin, I do want to offer some fear, a fear of mine. I am concerned that we're getting very close to AL, because I don't know for sure, but I have very strong reason to believe that under AL is going to be Dante Alighieri, and under Dante Alighieri might be the Divine Commedia. I've read the Inferno, guys. I don't want to read the whole Commedia. And if it's the whole Commedia, I have to read the Inferno again, because I haven't read the Inferno in a very long time, and I'm not going to have the context for the rest of the Commedia if I don't read the Inferno again. If it's just the Inferno, sorry, I already read it. But if it's the whole Commedia, I have to reread it, and I don't want to do that. So... There's only a few letters in the way. There's the rest of D, E, F, G, H, I. Obviously, that's 6 letters. But those letters are not very good for the letter A. So I'm skeptical that we're going to see much. I'm predicting there's going to be another Adams. Because we had Douglas Adams. I think there's going to be another Adams because it's a very common last name. Okay, without further ado, once again, I'm sorry that this isn't a very interesting visual experience of watching me scroll. Scrolling past Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. The Education of Henry Adams. The man who wouldn't be president. Oh, okay. So this is like a grandson of John Quincy Adams, and this is like an autobiography. Okay, so it's right about an Adams. I feel good about that. I'm so smart, guys. Scrolling. Watership Down, Richard Adams. Okay, we're still in the Adamses, guys. Okay, I believe in us. Watership Down. I'm very excited for Watership Down, actually. I've heard of it. I don't know what it's about, but I can't wait to read it. Kind of. I probably should decide that I'm excited for this once I know what it is, but I've heard it's good. Okay, next. Half of a Yellow Sun. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. About the Nigerian Civil War. Okay, cool. We're at 3, so 2 more to go. I'm very excited about the fact that we haven't passed D. Because if we haven't passed D, we might not be making it to L. Scrolling. The Oresteia! Oh my gosh, I love the Oresteia. Oh my god. I haven't read the whole thing. I've only read like one of the plays out of it, but Aeschylus's Oresteia, I'm here for that, guys, okay? I'm not stressed. I'm also very excited about the fact that I'm going home, because I have a copy at home. Okay. So that's E. D, E. So unless we skip all the way through F, G, H, I, and J, and K, I think we're safe. But just one more book, okay? One more book. I'm scared, guys. Let Us Now Praise Famous Men by James Agnew and Walker Evans. Okay, I have no idea what that is. But this is exciting, okay? We're safe. We're safe, guys. No Dante's Inferno. God, I really wish that his name wasn't so close to the front of the alphabet. 'Cause, like, I'm working on my Italian, and, like, if this was, like, a W, then I'd have, like, a few more years to work on my Italian, and maybe I could read it in Italian, and I think I'd like that better. But nope, not how it works. But okay, I'm excited. Let us now praise famous men, the Oresteia, Half of a Yellow Sun, Watership Down, and the Education of Henry Adams. Okay, I haven't read any of these actually, which I think is a lot more in line with my theory that I've only read about 50 books. Because, like, it was kind of crazy that we came right out the gate with, like, 2 out of 5. That would suggest that I'd read, like, 400 of the books, which I don't think is remotely true. So I think the fact that I haven't read any of these is more consistent with my theory. It's not amazing news, but, like, I like reading, so I'm not going to get too hung up on it. Okay, I'm going to go put some holds on these books, including the Oresteia, because I might have gotten rid of it. I don't know. Whoops. I guess if there's another section to the video, I'll see you then. Okay, guys, really quick update. So I went ahead and placed the holds on those books, and no joke, every single one of them is already in the library. I didn't have to do any interlibrary holds at all. I literally didn't have to break the structure of the video and deceive you all, my beloved non-existent audience. Sorry! How was I supposed to know that? I couldn't see what the books were. Sorry. Alright guys, I'm gonna be so honest. I did just get done with the Things Fall Apart packet. I just recorded the whole section where I lied about not having read, not knowing what the books are. Sorry. It felt like a better flow for the video. Sorry. I now actually have copies of all of the books, which is nice. 2 more of them are floating around somewhere. So, I'll probably make a video in definitely by the end of the month. I'm gonna be totally honest. The Education of Henry Adams, it's making me want to put like a fork in my ear and then twist it until I have spaghetti. But we'll see. Anyway, I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching, dudes. I'm guessing it's been like 3 hours, which is a little bit crazy. I'm very excited to be doing this. I suppose I'll keep posting in the future. And ciao bella. Grazie, something Italian, oui baguette. Buongiorno. Ciao. Arrivederci. Bye.